they come onto the backstretch. You see now the banking as Bobby Rahal comes off of the second turn and onto the backstretch.
In the last practice session, which was yesterday afternoon, the fastest car
Rick Mears, the number 4 car, and Teo Fabi in the March Porsche, the 8 car on the outside.
2 Penske cars. Penske sold the car to the Patrick team, and they got him beat for the pole today, Paul.
That certainly has been part of the story this year. Michael Andretti looks ahead a couple of rows to the front of the field as now the pace begins to pick up. They're in the north turn, the combination turn that is 3 and 4, but really one sweeping turn to the rest. Off of the final turn now, the green flag lies just ahead, and the starter says, no, I don't like that alignment. No start at all. As a matter of fact, there has been some criticism of ragged alignment on the starts this year, Bobby.
Well, what happened is that Bobby didn't feel that he got a fair start, a fair lineup, and he just lagged back, and if they were going to go for it, he was going to embarrass them, and the starter said, we're going to have them straight up and proper, or we don't go.
The winter has been unkind to this track, which used to be among the smoothest in the country. It is now quite rough.
Let's take a look. This is Michael Andretti's onboard camera as they come to the start. The rows ahead are in fairly good shape at that point, but as they come down, you see how far the green and white car pulls back.
Now already you can see, Paul, that the second row was already ahead of Bobby. So it doesn't look like Bobby kept up quite as good as he should have.
A good judgment by Nick Finora, the starter. They're in a little better alignment now. In fact, it's much tighter in the front of the field, though still a little straggled out at the back.
Now, Paul, is another thing to remember. This is on their fuel. In other words, they're not getting additional fuel for this extra lap. So the guys make their own penalty here.
500 miles. Fuel is critical. It's allocated. They come toward the green again, and this time it comes out, and we're racing at the Michigan 500. Teo Fabi up to the high side, inches his way into the front. The question is, can he hold the line as Emerson Fittipaldi slides into second place, and Rick Mears falls backwards. But, Bobby, that may be part of the game plan.
Well, it certainly was. Teo just said he's not going to go for it earlier, and he went for it now. He came out in the lead. Emo's right behind him. The guy that surprises me is Rick. He normally is a super good starter.
So the Porsche and the March chassis pulls out in front. Teo Fabi is leading this 500. And as we have already suggested, he is certainly capable of winning in the distance of 500 miles. He won at Pocono in '83.
Fabi and the Porsche team have a big axe to grind. They've been shamed for about 2 years now, embarrassed. They finally have got the engine running, obviously, at high-speed racetrack, and he just could be tough all day today.
So Teo Fabi out in front. Coming up through the field is Johnny Rutherford, former winner of this race, trying to carve his way up through this field.
Part of the story, I believe, with Bobby may be the handling of his car, the March car. He's been very good on the road courses, and this track, although power is definitely...
And there goes a pass for the lead as Emerson Fittipaldi decides enough of watching and waiting. And look how fast he moves around Bobby.
Well, what happens is just as soon as the wind affects these cars an awful lot, and as soon as he went by Bobby, Bobby had to ease off the gas because the air would really disturb his car. Now he's got to come back up behind Emo kind of gentle to see how the air's going to be.
This is for Bobby's first taste of really running at the front on a super speedway for many, many years. But don't forget, he was no stranger to this kind of competition when he started in IndyCar racing about 5 years ago.
So Emerson Fittipaldi makes his move on the second lap and is able to get around. And we've got to spin the 12 car. That's Rich Vogler. Little turbocharger fire at the back. Obviously, there's been contact with the wall. That fire should burn itself out and should not be a problem. Not endanger the driver in any way, but obviously some contact with the wall. Rich Vogler, who's great in the midgets and the sprints, gets into the wall.
You know, Vogler made the point, as we see Emerson slowing down now, that his car handled better in practice with the rear wing, what he described as loosened up a little bit, giving him a looser, more of a sprint car feeling that you might have on dirt. It's possible that in the turbulence of these opening laps, the car was too loose, too inclined to slide out of the back for it.
Steve Chassis is also involved in this accident and off on the grass as well. So with 3 laps complete at the Michigan 500, we are already yellow as Rich Vogler and Steve Chassis involved in an incident at the start of the Michigan 500. Emerson Fittipaldi picks up the lead at the conclusion of the second lap. He is now followed by Teo Fabi, Rick Mears, Mario Andretti, and Danny Sullivan. We'll be back. We're back at Michigan under the caution caused when Steve Chassie in that car, and Steve is, by the way, in the pink uniform, standing out of the car now, walking away to the ambulance, and Rich Vogler were involved in an accident here. Let's go down to Brian Hammond.
Well, both Andretti's pitted during this yellow flag. Mario twice. Mario came in to change the stagger on the car and put some more wing into it. Now, the wing adjuster was broken. They had to come in a second time to adjust the left front wing. As far as Michael's concerned, he has a clutch problem. He came in very quickly to have the crew check on that. So both Andretti's took the opportunity to pit during this first yellow flag. Paul?
And in the brief time we were under green, Emerson Fittipaldi became the leader of the race after he got around Teo Fabi, who swept across the front row to take the lead on the start. So we're at Michigan International under the caution flag. You know, coming up on ABC, the Trans-Antarctica. It's that international expedition returning on Sunday, August 20th with a 1-hour primetime skit special. Sam, you're involved in that. It's extremely exciting and a non-mechanized...
Most dangerous part of the route. We have cameras right there with them. Plus, Bob Beatty has been in Antarctica for 3 weeks, and we will have his reports on ABC. It's an incredible adventure, I think, but despite the forbidding climate, we're covering it with our cameras as no one has ever covered an adventure like this before.
Sam, does that get around 50 to below zero over there?
50 below zero, and here's the thing. The wind chill can frequently be the grimmest on Earth because the wind speeds can reach 150 miles an hour on parts of the interior.
Better weather right here in Michigan.
You got it.
So under caution for an accident involving Steve Chassie and Rich Vogler, though both drivers we believe to be okay. This was Rich Vogler's 8th 500-mile race. He's been taken out by accidents in 4 of them. So Emerson Fittipaldi, under the caution, is the leader of this race. But we are slowed for the moment. 6 laps are actually into the record book as an unpredictable aspect of the Michigan 500 begins to present itself. In Emerson Fittipaldi's pit, the Patrick Racing Team. John Anderson, one of the crew members, resets and checks his watch. Chip Ganassi, one of the owners on the car, is put up on the wall, and of course Pat Patrick stands just behind, wondering can they win on this track that he has been so involved in this year. And Emerson Fittipaldi has been involved in a number of confrontations this year. And for the fans, a somewhat exciting year. We asked Emo, does he like the bump and run tactics?
I would say, Jack, the result, why this has happened, I mean, is the first question. And I think the competition is more than ever very balanced. And if you look since Indy, the end of the races, most of the race, first and second, always running together. The last few laps. And that's when everybody's really trying hard to win the race. And that's the reason why sometimes we're driving harder than we used to. But I'm sure, you know, even, you know, the people like Michael, or Junior, Bobby, myself, Mario, we don't like to bump each other. It just happens. And there is not being intention from anyone. Sometimes we all can do a mistake and can happen. But it made a great show for the public. I think it shows how close the kart series is, how close the competition is, and I think that's great. Great for the sport.
Emerson Fittipaldi, his wife, Teresa, watches from the pits. Road Handler presents the Michigan 500. We'll be back with more racing after this message and a word from our ABC station. One of the beautiful little lakes that dot the landscape surrounding Michigan International Speedway outside Jackson in southern Michigan, where we're here for the Michigan 500. 9 laps are complete. 3 of those have been under green, the rest under yellow after Rich Vogler and Steve Chassie were involved in an accident. You ride on board for the moment with Michael Andretti. Both he and his father made stops having troubles with their clutches on board. Hopefully they now have those repaired and are back in operation. The leader of the race under yellow is Emerson Fittipaldi. Teo Fabi is second. Rick Mears is third, and Danny Sullivan is fourth. Now, why are the cars faster this year? Well, part of the reason may now be electronic brains, computers that monitor the cars in every move and help the crew succeed. Brian Hammond reports.
IndyCar racing has gotten very sophisticated. Virtually all the teams now have onboard computer systems that measure fuel consumption, RPM, speed, various temperatures, G-loads, etc. The team pulls their car into the pits, they plug in their computer, and they download all that information to see just how well the car is running. Now, the most sophisticated computer system belongs to the Porsche team. It's a real-time telemetry system. They can monitor their driver, Teo Fabi, while he's actually on the race course. Now, that comes in most handy during the course of a race when they're monitoring fuel consumption. They can see just what kind of mileage Teo is getting, and then he can adjust the boost from inside the cockpit. IndyCar racing has become a very high-tech sport.
Teo Fabi, of course, what the computer shows, is currently running in second, and there's probably no driver in this race more capable of understanding or appreciating computer technology such as they use in his team, because he has a degree in engineering from the Institute of Technology in Milan. He's a man that flies a helicopter, so all this is very familiar to him, Paul.
They work their way around, still under the caution. Indications are we are one lap to green. You look down from the Goodyear Airship Enterprise from Pompano Beach, Florida. Captain Prue Marshall is at the controls, giving us some great shots today. This, by the way, is the 54th consecutive year a Goodyear blimp has covered automobile racing in the U.S.
Well, Paul, one of the things that happened early on is Michael and Mario coming in. As Brian reported out of the pits, they pitted awfully early, which is going to put them way back in the serial lineup when the race starts. Now, will that affect them or not? We'll just have to wait and see whether they got their problems cured.
But you do see how many cars are ahead of them there in that shot as you look up the track from Michael's car.
A couple of former winners we want to keep track of. Gordon Johncock, the 82 winner, passed 8 cars in the first couple of laps, moved up to 10th position. Pancho Carter went from 11th to 7th, and Johnny Rutherford started 21st. You got a brief glimpse of him as he was cutting his way up to the field, now sits in 14th place.
Watch how you can watch the steering wheel when the cars are running 80 miles an hour under the caution, how smooth this racetrack really is. But when they get up to 220 miles an hour, it isn't quite as smooth, right?
Exactly. Well, the winters are very hard up here, and it's hard to keep a good smooth surface on the public roads or the racetrack.
It will be Emerson Fittipaldi now, leading Teo Fabi and Rick Mears. Then Danny Sullivan as they come back to the green flag. The pace car has worked its way down off of the track onto the pit road. The pace picks up, the green flag flies. Emerson responds, as does the rest of the field, and we are back racing with 11 laps now complete. 250 laps, 500 miles the scheduled distance. Rick Mears attacks Teo Fabi, gets past and moves into second place. So now Rick Mears, who some indicated might have taken a little bit easy on this race and decided to wait it out, at least has decided he's a bit faster than Teo.
Well, I talked to Rick earlier, and he says that they're just going to try to win this race, Paul. They can't go out and do the rabbit and the hound deal. They realize that if they have to run with Emmo's going to just run them until they run their car to death. So Rick's going to make that just a little bit, but not let Emmo get too lazy.
Jeff Wood, the competent road racer, has been in the pits twice now, just reappeared there again as he had problems with his machine. We continue to watch the front of this field as Emerson Fittipaldi, and look at Michael and Mario as they come side by side racing with one another.
Well, they have a long way to go and a lot of cars to pass, but it's always interesting to see a father and son together like that and see who's going to come out on top.
Well, the last thing these two would like to do is get tackled. Remember, they've had a couple of confrontations, not on the track, but in the pits this year at Milwaukee. They got together on a pit stop, and then they did the same thing at the Cleveland race. So right now, I think they want to stay away from one another.
Now just watch that in-car camera and watch his hands and watch how harder he works than he does in the green than he does in the yellow flag, Paul.
Well, let's continue watching Michael Andretti, and let me direct your attention to the top of his helmet. Yeah, it's a little experiment there that a number of the drivers are trying. It seems that the Penske team came to this track with some little strips on top of the helmet that they say helps the buffeting. Boy, look at Michael as he moves around on the backstretch. Well, so the other teams have decided to put some strips of tape and some bumps on the top of the helmet. The idea is to keep the wind from slapping their head around as Michael fires his way up through this field.
Well, what happens is when that air is coming over the cars at, say, 220 miles an hour, it makes the cockpit a low-pressure area, or, in other words, trying to suck the driver right out of the cockpit. So they have to hold the helmet still somewhere. This was tried many years ago, but it looks like it may be working.
Bobby Rahal now tries a move on Danny Sullivan. This is a battle for sixth place as Rahal, the winner of the run at the Meadowlands. And now Arie Luyendyk comes up alongside Danny Sullivan and puts his nose past as well.
Now remember, this is Cosworth against Chevrolet. Danny Sullivan has a Chevrolet. It's one of the Roger Penske cars. It's very rare to see a Cosworth outrunning a Chevrolet like that.
And it looks like Randy Lewis may have his problems. Telltale vapor at the back of the car. Randy's gotten up high off of the line and let the cars come through on the low side. It has brought out the yellow flag, and we'll slow down once again with 16 laps complete at the Michigan 500. The last lap they ran at 216 miles an hour. Randy Lewis is done for the day. Emerson Fittipaldi is the leader. We'll be back. Looking forward to a 20th season of Monday Night Football. We're back at the Michigan 500 under yellow once again. Let's go to the pits. This report from Brian Hammond.
Now, we told you earlier that Mario Andretti had a broken wing adjustment on the front wing. This is what it is. The crew will stick a tool down this hole and then be able to adjust the front wing. Now, the left one is broken, so Mario can only get adjustment of the front wing on the right side, so he may not have a good handling race car. Now let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Brian Hammond, one of the front runners, has come in and out of the pits for a quick stop. That is Rick Mears, who was running in second. Now, Richard Buck calls the shots here on pit road for Rick Mears. Why did you bring him in so early?
Well, right now we're running on the offensive side. We wanted to get him in. The car's handling good. We want to have a good look at the tires, make sure we're not having any trouble. And all the engine temperatures, everything's just perfect. So we're just
What'd you find with the tires?
Perfect. No problem.
Well, that's the story from pit road on Team Penske's side of things.
And Bobby Unser, you think it might have been a stagger change?
Well, I think Rick changed the stagger. Obviously, he wouldn't change the tires that quick, number one. Number two, on Mario, he's in a little bit of trouble because nobody likes to adjust just the right front wing for a 500-mile race.
Next Saturday here on ABC Sports, great golf coverage continues in the final major tournament of the year, the PGA Championship. We'll bring you live 18-hole coverage of the third and the fourth rounds. The PGA Championship, that's live Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern, here on ABC Sports. The 20 car, Emerson Fittipaldi, picks up the pace in the third turn now. The pace car accelerates away. You're on with Michael Andretti, who runs back in 12th place owing to those early stops and getting out of the order of the cycle. 40 miles are already complete of the 500-mile run here. And Fittipaldi begins to pick the pace up. Al Unser is right up behind Teo Fabi and beginning to challenge Fabi for second. So Al Unser, the four-time Indianapolis champion, in a drag race with Teo Fabi, and a nice spread of cars behind them as Unser picks up second. Fabi drops back, and Bobby Rahal closes in as well. Also notice that Pancho Carter to the outside, who started back in this field, the first winner of the Michigan 500, has closed in and is sitting right behind Al Unser. Pancho started 11th and is now running in third.
He looks to me like he's handling really good because he's pushing on Al pretty hard right there. As far as the Porsche, it looks like they just don't get good starts. So could be he's got electronic fuel injection problem, Paul.
Pancho Carter there, almost being passed by Teo Fabi as he himself tries to make a bid on Al Unser.
And Pancho Carter gets fast. He can run a really low line, but something's wrong as Al really comes off the pace, coming off of the second turn and drops well back.
Well, something broke on the car. We can't see what it is right now, but obviously either got an engine or transmission, I would guess.
Wow, shades of Indianapolis when all three Penske cars retired. Sullivan was in trouble earlier in this race.
Well, that's awful early to be having those kind of troubles, Sam.
Al Unser, nothing being laid down on the track, so we continue under green flag. There is the leader of the race, the 20 car, Emerson Fittipaldi. And we look back into this fight for second place. Teo Fabi, Pancho Carter, and now Arie Luyendyk has moved up into fourth place. Nice little fight.
You want to remember also that when we see these cars breaking early on, that's all new stuff that they just put in the cars yesterday. So you really really shouldn't be having these problems, but the engines haven't been tested on the racetrack.
Pancho Carter continues to challenge Teo Bobby. Arie Luyendyk right behind. Rick Mears and Danny Sullivan both made stops under the yellow. Bobby Unser was of the opinion that Mears changed some of the stagger setting. That is the relationship of the right rear tire to the left rear as Pancho Carter and Luyendyk fight, and Luyendyk moves past Carter. Arie started in 10th place.
Now that's one of the new Cosworth engines versus the old Cosworth. Pancho Carter on the right there as the old Cosworth engine. Luyendyk in the black car as the new Cosworth engine.
Boy, look at the fight go on as Pancho Carter really wants a piece of this action as he comes back past Luyendyk. Let's go to the pits. Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, what a terrible break for the Al Unser Sr. has brought one of Team Penske's cars in. He reported in that the engine had just shut off. Now what they have to do is the laborious process of taking off the bonnet, going through all of the electronics, a little bit of a turbo fire in the back. And now there seems to be a problem with Pancho Carter as well, Paul.
That's right, Jack. Pancho Carter has pulled up into the high groove, slowed down, and is out of the racing line as his little fight seems to have gone away very suddenly as well.
Well, it's an awful lot of problems so early in the race. Now, again, we're going to have to, there's nothing else wrong with the car that's visible, so it's going to be probably an engine problem again with Pancho, and it kind of shows you how hard it is at Michigan because they really don't shut him off all the way around.
Let's go back to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, let's brief you on what they're doing right behind me here. What they're actually doing now is they've got a briefcase full of all the electronic devices for Al Unser Sr.'s car. They're going one by one, exchanging them, hoping to isolate the problem. Thus far, I checked with Teddy Mayer, and he says he's not all that certain what the problem is. The engine just quit.
Teddy Mayer, of course, back working with the Penske team after a short stay in England. Trying to work with the Brabham organization this year. They still can't get that engine to work right. Bobby Unser, my question would be, they have all this sophisticated electronics, but it seems to be what is failing more often than not this year.
Well,
would you not say let's not go to that?
Well, Paul, it makes more power and it makes the fuel mileage, and as long as you have that little carrot dangling in front of you like fuel and power, and you have to go for it. And it's the vibration that gets to them pretty bad.
Here's the fight for 4th place, Bobby Rahal, and sitting right behind him is Michael Andretti. Mario is closing in behind Michael. So with the stops by the two Penske cars, Sullivan and Mears, and some of the dropouts we've seen at the front of the field, most notably Al Unser's and Pancho Carter, the Andrettis have managed to work themselves back up into a good position.
Now remember, the Andrettis were clear back at the back because they made a first pit stop early on, and now they're getting back up in the serial scoring where they're going to be competitive.
You ride with Michael Andretti now as he tries to overhaul Bobby Rahal. And you get an idea. Here you look back from Bobby. That's Michael just behind. It gives you an impression, though still not a clear one, of how steep the banking is here. Michael is going to drive Bobby Rahal down to the inside as they come down in and across the start-finish line at the Tri-Oval. And Michael is able to get past Rahal.
Now that's Chevrolet power in Michael's car, Cosworth power again, the new Cosworth engine in Rahal's car. And you can see how the cars move back and forth sideways as they get into the airstream of the other cars. Well, the drivers really have to hold on to them hard right there.
Both Rahal and Michael work around a slower car. You ride now with Bobby Rahal.
Look at how much his dashboard is vibrating down in there. This is lapping at 217 miles an hour.
Let's go down to Jack Arute.
Well, disappointment for another team after running up front. Pancho Carter, a place where lately he's not been accustomed to. John Barnes, you call the shots. What did Pancho radio in the problem to be?
You said the motor let go going down the front straightaway. We were really just taking it easy at first. We thought we could go on up and take care of the guys up front later.
When you run so well early on and you get your hopes real high, what's the disappointment like at this point when you see the car smoking by you and going back to Gasoline Alley?
Well, if it wasn't for the highs and lows, you wouldn't know where the middle was in this business, I guess.
Guess that just about says it all.
John Barnes, one of the good men in the sport. Pancho Carter has had some brilliant moments in the IndyCar. He's really had some good runs. One here at Michigan at Nazareth a couple years ago. Given proper equipment and a car that'll last under him, he is going to be terrific.
Well, that's really something, Paul, to be able to take a standard Cosworth like that and get up and run with the front guys. So our hats off to Pancho for a little while.
Back with Michael Andretti now. Sitting just ahead is Arie Luyendyk. The leader of the race is still Emerson Fittipaldi with 31 laps now complete in the action. 250 laps, the scheduled distance. And Emerson Fittipaldi has a 9-second lead over the second-place car of Teo Bobby as now Al Unser rolls back into the fight. We'll be back. well as Mario Andretti. The fight is for second place. Emerson Fittipaldi is now 11 seconds out in front of the field. And look at Michael as he tries to get down inside Teo Fabi. Brings her way down on the course, but can't hold the speed there. And the March with a Porsche engine is able to pull away just a bit. Lyondike continues to stay right out of it. Lyondike pulled low as they came off the last corner.
Right now, all the action's happening in the turns, Paul. The Porsche, the March chassis of the Porsche car is really sticking good. Now, if this
and Arie Lyondike went for the pits when he came off of the corner, and he came off hot, locked up all the brakes as he came in for this stop. Bobby, it looks routine. They're just refueling the car. So apparently, at 36 laps, he'd run what he felt was the limit.
It is. He did run the limit, Paul. The idea was he didn't stop early on, and neither the two stopped. Some of the other guys did. So now he's out for a normal run. The problem is he's on the green. If they have a yellow now, he could be in trouble.
Well,
there's a Porsche going by.
Some of the tactics being played very early in the race. The Penske team, both Sullivan and Mears, made early stops on the 17th lap during the yellow caution period. Arie Lyondike, who just saw a stop for 15 seconds. At the same time he was in the pits, Al Unser Jr. made a stop a little bit longer at about 19 and a half. Teo Fabi still occupying second. Here is Arie Lyondike of just a few moments ago. Look at, he came off that course so hot. His pit one of the first. He locked the brakes up, got it slowed down, and then made the turn in.
He just got too much front brake on the car. It's set up more for road racing rather than a high-speed joint. Something they don't pay attention to here is the brakes.
The leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, works his way around, continues to put time on the rest of the field, is now 13.1 seconds out in front of Teo Fabi. Michael Andretti runs in third. His father, Mario, runs in fourth. Arie Lyondike, when he made the stop, vacated that fight. And Bobby Rahal runs in the fifth position. Let's go to the pits once again in Jackaroo.
Well, Paul Page, this is Dick Simon. And Dick, you call the shots on this team for Arie Lyondike. A costly miscue by Arie. He missed the marks, and it was costly in terms of time.
Not really. He lost maybe a second and a half. Came in a little bit too hot. But he didn't flat spot the tires, and we made just a fuel, and he was creeping there. His blood adrenaline is running high.
Adrenaline is running high all over the racetrack.
Terrific fight continuing as Michael gets around Teo Fabi and now begins to chase the leader, Emerson Fittipaldi. There is Mario now lined up behind Fabi to see if he can overhaul him as well. Teo Fabi tries to hold off Mario Andretti. That fight is for third place. The leader is still Emerson Fittipaldi. Let's watch this fight on the backstretch now. Bobby Rahal on the outside as they try to split around Scott Brayton. And Mario moves past, picks up the position from Teo Fabi. Rahal continues on the high line, trying to get by on the high side. And Teo Fabi, the Porsche-powered car, now decides it's time to come down into the pits. He's gone 41 laps without a stop. Let's go down to the pits for the report.
As the Porsche comes in, stops right on the mark. They will get 4 new tires and a full load of fuel. Teo Fabi running a very strong 500-mile race. Here's the helmet cam. We can see the bird's eye view of changing a tire. The revs are up. The fuel is now in. We're waiting for the car to come off the jacks. There it is, and there goes Teo Fabi.
You also saw the adjustment of the left front wing, all in 15.6 seconds. Not too bad.
What it shows is that he had a little bit of front end push, Sam, and he turned the left front wing up just a little bit more to give him a little bit more bite on the front end.
Emerson Fittipaldi comes around Danny Sullivan. Sullivan, remember, stopped early on and is well back, running 15th now. And Fittipaldi, with a great day, is now 14 seconds ahead of the second-place car, which is now Michael Andretti. Mario Andretti is in third. Bobby, not only the front wing adjustment, you said it might be pushing there, but 4 tires. They changed both the front tires. Normally, the left front on this kind of course really doesn't touch the ground all that much. Doesn't carry a lot of weight.
No, they don't, but what they'll do is change that, Paul, in order to keep the stagger across the front end very good. Now here,
Bobby Rahal comes in for a pit stop. Let's go to Brian Hammond.
And Bobby Rahal will also get a 4-tire change and a full load of fuel. So everybody changing the right front tires. Work going smoothly. Rahal running well today as well. Now waiting for the car to come off the jacks. Fuel still going in. A little water to brush away the excess, and there goes Bobby Rahal.
Bobby Rahal in 15.9 seconds. Nice quick stop. Gary Green and his organization. Maury Crane's the car owner on a team that will, after this join up and become a two-car team with Rick Gallis as Emerson Fittipaldi now slows it down and heads down toward the Patrick pits for some fast service. And he locks the brakes early as well. It's hard to judge the speed when you've been running over 210 miles an hour. But now he rolls down and rolls right on through because that little lock of the brakes carried him past his pit and out. Look at the crew. They're saying, wasn't that him that went past? They decided bring him around one more and bring him in. But boy, that's cost him dearly.
Yes, that's a very costly thing, Paul, and it's a very simple thing. He just flat went in too fast, went right on by. It's the only decision, and it takes a guy as sharp as Emo to go ahead and make that decision and keep going.
And the sooner you make the decision, the better, too, because you don't lose so much speed and then overshoot. And one other thing, though, there is, of course, Michael Andretti, who has just taken the lead, but with Emo going into the pit like that. Let me just quickly say that in this season, which Emerson has dominated so decisively, he has made several mistakes. You see him now coming again into the pits, but he's been able to overcome them. In Detroit, for example, in the early stages of the race, he twice ran in dead last place, and he's had, as we know, many contact moments with the other cars. So he's been able to overcome this kind of thing.
Something's still not exactly right. You saw he rolled in just a little short of the mark. Let's go to Jack.
Well, a lot of disappointment here. Emerson Fittipaldi now having to go and just take on fuel because of the pit miscue. They're filling the tank. He is livid inside the cockpit. The crew filling up the 42-gallon tank. They have elected not to take on any new tires, but this was not a terrific stop. Far from it for Team Patrick.
Now at 29 seconds, many of the teams could have done two stops in the same time, and you have to add into that problem the miscue on the first attempt to get into the pits, the slow lap. And remember, at the speeds they're running, every second that he falls behind is over 300 feet on the race course, and that's hard to make up.
Well, it certainly is, Paul. It looks like they made a mistake in the beginning, or Emo did, and then things just got worse. There was no reason for the stop to take that long.
Michael Andretti is the leader. His father, who was running in second, came into the pits. There he is now, making what should be his first stop. We'll go to the pits again.
It's a four-tire change for Mario Andretti, full load of fuel. You'll remember, they cannot adjust the left front wing on Mario Andretti. My question to Bobby Unser is, how will that affect the car, Bobby?
Well, what's going to happen is the cars are pushing a little bit right now, but they'll adjust them a little bit during the race. It'll be all right.
Here comes the leader of the race, Michael Andretti, as he comes into the pits for routine service.
Everything going smoothly for Michael Andretti. The crew puts all four tires on, a full load of fuel. Remember, he came in earlier under the first early yellow with a clutch problem. They don't expect it to be a problem. Let's see if he has some trouble getting out of the pits. That will be the telltale. No, he gets out fine, so Michael Andretti is away.
15 seconds as Michael almost gets tangled up with Jeff Wood as he comes in. Rick Mears picks up the lead, and Michael was a little bit quicker in the stop than his father. Michael was at 15, and Mario was in about 17. Now remember, Rick Mears, who picks up the lead, was an early stopper. Now here comes Michael, and look at that. The 56 car is Jeff Wood, and Jeff locked them up hard to keep from getting into the side of Michael.
Well, there's been so many cars in and out right now. I haven't been able to keep up with all of it, but I just noticed that Emma was in again, Paul.
So Rick Mears now has the lead of the Michigan 500. He has never won the 500 here. Last year, the race was won by his teammate, Danny Sullivan. That was Roger Penske's first 500-mile win here on his own racetrack. By the way, a facility that's just absolutely magnificent. Every year you come back, Roger's added a couple improvements, a few grandstands, some more hospitality suites, another area for the camper parking. They really do a nice job with this magnificent 2-mile superspeedway here. Rick Mears, that bright yellow number 4 machine. And as Rick works his way around the track, in first place, Michael Andretti was able to come out of the pits in second, and Mario came out in third. Ollie Lyondike is now running fourth. There is Mario, the number 5 car, working his way around, and Emerson Fittipaldi's back in the pits. Here's Jack.
If it comes in threes for this team, they've had to come back in after gambling and not taking on tires. But the way Emerson Fittipaldi is coming in and out of the pits, it's clearly evident that he has some sort of a braking problem. He's not locking the tires up. He's not, in fact, even going real slow. He's just creeping to the pits, trying to coast to a stop.
Well, that time he was in there for just over 14 seconds. But Fittipaldi, second leader of the race, has fallen well back in the field. Here is Michael. Look at that. Boy, that was Jeff Wood on the outside. Michael looked out there, caught him in his mirrors just at the right time, just as Jeff locked up the brakes, and Michael steered away.
Now that's
Michael kept that car safe.
That's something Jeff Wood should have caught, Paul, because he knew Michael was on the way out.
Rick Mears is the leader of the Michigan 500 and played a careful race to this point. Can he hold on and score his first victory here? We'll be back. We're back at the Michigan 500. You saw a great IROC race here yesterday. You're seeing a great one today as Rick Mears, one of the competitors in the IROC, is trying to hold off challenging and charging Michael Andretti. Michael's lined up just behind him right now. Don't forget, 2 weeks from now, we'll see the final run of the International Race of Champions from Watkins Glen, New York. Rick Mears picked his hand up, touched his visor for a moment there. We're on board with Michael just behind. As Michael comes out and around, Rick Mears, when he picked his hand up, apparently was indicating to Michael that he does intend to slow down. Michael Andretti picks up the lead of the race, and Rick Mears rolls down toward his crew. They are waiting. They do not have tires out. And Richard Buck just dusted off the top of the tires. There was an official there. Is that an official call, Bobby?
That's a stop-go penalty, but I don't know why right now. But that's obviously what it was. Rick hardly even stopped. It's lucky he didn't run over somebody there.
Well, Billy Camphausen, one of the CART officials, was standing right there. And apparently what they're reporting now is that Rick came out of the pits in a nice run from a little 10-second stop and got over the line as he came out of the pit lane.
That's that yellow line right at the bottom, and Wally Dallenbach really holds close on that, Paul, and Rick must have just jumped over it a little bit, but boy, it sure cost him a lot of time right there.
Let's take a look as we see Rick Mears. This was a very, very quick stop. Mears came down in, Bobby.
Now what happens here is what they've done is they've left their brake set for the road circuit. They've got too much on the front and not enough on the back for oval tracks. Now, all during practice, the cars just don't come in that fast, so the drivers just don't get them set right.
Now this was a stop while we were away. This happened just a few minutes ago. Rick Mears came out of the pits, accelerated. Now let's see where the penalty, as he came out of the pits, is when they would have noticed something to assess the penalty. And what that does, of course, is give Michael Andretti, the penalty itself is actually the determining factor. If Michael Andretti the lead of the race, his father Mario is 5.5 seconds back, and Arie Luyendyk is now running in third. Bobby Rahal moves up, and Rick Mears slides into 5th place.
Yeah, and 5th place is a long ways back, and it shows you how much just a real short stop and go penalty, or shows you how much a stop hurts you from 215 miles an hour roughly down to 0, Paul.
Michael Andretti, who you see.
Let's go down to the pits once again. Brian Hammond.
Well, the story on Rick Mears, the reason he had the penalty for the stop and go, it was a pit violation exiting the pits. He did cross the white line. He had 4 tires over the white line, so that is why Rick Mears had to stop and go. Paul?
Very unlike Rick Mears as well. You'd think, in addition to the fact that he's normally careful, that he would recognize that because he has so many test miles here at Michigan. Arie Luyendyk trying to close down on Mario Andretti. Mario is running in 3rd place right now behind his son Michael. They just worked their way around Danny Sullivan, who is running well back in the order.
You know, Paul, and jumping over that yellow line when you leave the pit, you got to remember the cars today have 5 or 6-speed transmissions in them.
Look at Arie Luyendyk as he comes on the back stretch inside, picks up the position. Now can he hold on? Arie Luyendyk gets it coming into the corner. So Arie Luyendyk has moved up into 2nd place after starting in 10th.
Fabulous move by Luyendyk and that Cosworth Howard car, Paul. What I was saying is that they leave their acceleration on the back straightaway from the pit at a stop here is almost full speed. So that means that as they go around that turn, they are accelerating enormously fast. And what happens, Rick just slips over a little bit.
I can't tell you how important what is happening here is to Arie Luyendyk, the Dutchman. Last year, he had promising performance after promising performance and might have gotten picked up by a better team. But he decided to stay, show loyalty to Dick Simon and the team that had put him where he was last year. All of this year, until this moment, has been a terrible disappointment for Arie. He has not been able to run with the leaders at all until now.
Danny Sullivan in the pits. Here's Brian Hammond.
Well, Danny Sullivan is in the pits. His engine is off. The crew takes the bonnet off of the car, and now they're going to work. Danny Sullivan sits dejectedly in the cockpit with the silent engine. Paul?
Well, obviously a very serious pit stop. Anytime you take the rear cowling off of the car, they're bouncing it a bit, Bobby. What could that be?
Something is broken or come loose. Remember, Michigan, you pull about 5 Gs through the turns. The car has a tremendous amount of twist to it that the cameras, as good as they are, just won't show. And that's something that's probably broken from it.
You see, Danny, he was gesturing there. He's talking on his radio. He's looking over at the man in the pits with the radio. In this case, most probably is crew chief, and discussing some of the handling of the car in the two-way radio conversation so they avoid all the noise while they're working on the back of the car. Let's take a look. This is Rick Mears again on that stop as he exits the pit now. Now let's see. Remember, these Indy cars will get up to over 100 miles an hour in just a little over 3 seconds. He's coming out of the pits. He has to stay below the line on the pit apron as he moves out of the pit area. Let's watch and see if he does, Bobby.
All right, now it's the yellow line on the right that we're looking at to see what Rick does. Remember, he's still accelerating just as hard as that car will go, going through the shifts. Now he's getting right on the line, maybe almost just a little bit over it there. Right on it, right on it. Still right on it, came back. Now, he didn't get over the line right there. Now there he's over the line. There he's over the line with the right rear, as you can see it right there, just barely. Now, that was more sliding. Remember what we said. It accelerates so fast that the car just breaks loose a little bit right there is all it did.
All right, let's see as he comes all the way around. Just the momentum of the car really helped carry him up that high because it looks like he's trying to keep it down.
Now, in a few years back, they used to have the rule that you could get tires over it, but not the inside tube, Paul.
Well, Michael Andretti leads the Michigan 500. He's won here before. He'd like to do it again. He works down inside the red, white, and blue car, Raul Boesel, and he's got a strong lead of just over 5 seconds. You ride with Michael Andretti, the leader at the Michigan 500. We'll be back with more right after this.
Before the storm, the driver introduction will be on next.
Brought to you by CART and the IndyCar drivers.
We're back live at Michigan International Speedway as the second-place car, Arie Luyendyk, rolled into the pits. Let's go there at Jackaroo.
Well, Arie Luyendyk and his team having a nice stop here on pit road. They're changing all 4 tires. He's taking a drink. They're checking to see if he wanted a wing adjustment. He waved it off, and now he runs over the water bottle, but he puts it back in gear, and a very quick stop for this team.
Arie Luyendyk, second place in and out. Al Unser Jr., who was running an 8th, went in and out of the pits at the same time. They have been stopping together, those two teams. There, you're on board with Little Al as he accelerates on the backstretch. Little Al is running down in the field, was 8th as he came into the stop. Arie Luyendyk lost a position, in fact, several when he came into the pits, dropped back to 5th. Let's go down to the pits and further update report on Danny Sullivan's day.
The story on Danny Sullivan is this. He has a severe handling problem. The car just wants to pitch sideways in the corner. Now, the last pit stop, they made a lot of changes. It didn't work. So what the team's doing now is changing the rear springs and shocks, hoping that will cure the problem. But obviously, this is a lengthy process. So Danny Sullivan will be well back when he gets back out on the racetrack, Paul.
Well, Sullivan caught one break. They just brought the yellow flag out. Caution light is on. The field will slow. This is the result of a report of debris on the racetrack, and that brings Rick Mears, the 3rd-place car, in. Bobby Rahal, the 4th-place car, both coming into the pits.
That's going to be bad news for Luyendyk.
On board, you're on board really with Richard Buck, the crew chief for Rick Mears' car.
Yeah, anyway, that's going to hurt Luyendyk on that last stop. There's Rick in. He got a yellow flag stop. Comes Michael in. A lot of the cars will pit right now, but the guys that hit that green just before, Paul, are going to be hurt.
Bobby Rahal was running 4th as he came into the race. This is Michael Andretti, the leader of the race, is in the pits and holding the lead position, at least for the moment. He caught an advantageous caution period here. Michael seems confident as he nods to his crew and pulls out, and he has locked them up coming out of the pits. Michael chopped it over. Now he's got to figure out how to get that car around, and he's got a serious problem.
Amazing that he didn't stall it. That gives him at least one option.
Now, this is really going to hurt him. We've seen a lot of things things, but this is the first time we've seen this long get out of a pit.
Michael kicks the back end around. Now he doesn't have a reverse gear. They don't use reverse on ovals, so he has to use the crew to get him backwards. They say now he can go. He hits the throttle and is out of here. Remember, this all happened on a caution period that brought most of the front runners in. So perhaps Michael will have been very lucky by that yellow.
Yes, he was very lucky, but that didn't help him right there in that curve, Paul. So the people couldn't see it on the television. If he would have gotten up on that curve, the car was so close to the ground, he would have been stranded.
Michael's been struggling to keep the car down underneath that yellow line as well. Obviously, the momentum of the car as they leave the pits forces them to reduce speed, at least until they see clear running on that white line.
Well, obviously, Wally Dallenbach has told him no tires over the yellow.
So Michael Andretti makes a disastrous stop, but he may have gotten away with it because he was able to get it done under the yellow. We'll be back. On board with Michael. We're back at Michigan International Speedway, just outside of Brooklyn, Michigan, the beautiful Irish hills of southern Michigan. Michael Andretti works his way around under the caution flag. His father, Mario, picked up the lead of the race with that rather disastrous stop of Michael. Let's go down to the pits. First, we'll take a look at the standings. Mario, then Michael, Rick Mears, Arie Luyendyk, Bobby Rahal, the top 5 on this race that is rather typical Michigan 500, a very unpredictable race. There is always something strange or unusual that will occur. Now let's go to the pits, Brian.
Well, when Michael Andretti left the pits, his tires were wet from either water or fuel. That's what caused the spin. Now, when they go green, Michael will be assessed a stop-and-go penalty for that little U-turn it took to get back out on the race course. So Michael will be stopping when we go green, Paul.
There you see it moments ago. He just gunned it. The back end came loose, and Michael got around. Let's go to the pits in Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, we've been staying on top of Emerson Fittipaldi's problems. We've told you before about the brake problem. Every time he's come into the pits, he's been unable to hit the marks. He's got a creep in there. Now, they actually considered the possibility of bleeding the brakes and trying to add some more fluid, but thus far they feel that it would take too long for that to occur, and the 2 or maybe 2.5 seconds they lose in terms of in and out time on pit road is far less than it would take to be able to bleed the brakes and purge the system. So they're going to try and live with their problem through the rest of this race, unless it gets worse.
Usually what happens on a deal like that, Paul, is they have a little bit of adjustment problem between the master cylinder and the pedal. And it keeps the master cylinder loaded just a little bit all the time. It gets the brakes hot and spoils them.
Given his position at the moment, it won't matter much. Fittipaldi is back in 13th place as the green flag comes out once again. And Mario Andretti this time will be the leader of the race. Rick Mears closes up alongside of Al Unser Jr. Not a fight for position at that point. We look back to find the leader of the race, Mario Andretti, as the rest of the field strings its way through. Danny Sullivan, by the way, at a pit stop of over 7 minutes, and there you see him as Mario moves alongside him and down below. So Danny Sullivan is back in the running once again as we take a look at the top 5. Bobby?
So everybody knows why that Mario, the leader, was way back in the pack, is when they go yellow and everybody goes to the pits, the pace car picks up the car that was following the leader at the time. So this is Mario leading the race.
Let's not forget that Mario is the spiritual leader of this father and son team, but he has not had a good season this year, and this is the first time he's had a really strong run.
This is the Michael Andretti stop-and-go penalty. You see he comes in, he chocks it. Bill Uchow gives him the word to head back out in the traffic, but boy, when you have it happen at this point in the race, it can be costly.
It's supposed to be a stop, but boy, I'll tell you, Michael would have had to lock those tires to get him to stop.
I don't know about the traffic police in Albuquerque, Bobby, but in Indianapolis, if I did that at a stop sign, they'd be writing me a little green one.
Here's a ticket.
Mario Andretti out in front of the Michigan 500 field. He's won here before. He's also suffered some terrible accidents at this track.
Yes, like so many people who have won this race, the track seems to turn around and bite them in the next year or two. And 2 years after Mario won the race, he was injured in a crash that put him in the hospital for the first time in his career, causing him to miss a race. So he has a very mixed bag of memories about this place. But right now, as I said earlier, he has not had a great season so far. He has not managed to win a race in 1989. If he can hold on in this, it's going to make a big day for him.
And he's always been fast here too, Sam.
So Mario Andretti works his way around the track in the top position. Now, some people think that Mario may in fact be arrogant. He is in fact a quiet man. We ask him, though, about the accusations of arrogance.
Well, sometimes what's determined as arrogance by, say, your peers or your competition as such is perhaps confidence that comes across as arrogance. And sometimes I've confused that in my competitors. Sometimes I've envied or looked up to a competitor, not because I thought he was arrogant, because he was so damn confident. He says, I want to be like that, and but I want to justify it. You can't, that's something, confidence you can't fake. And and you work at it, and you have to back up confidence with substance.
Mario Andretti works his way around Michigan International, the leader of the race.
The interesting thing, too, is Michael, his son, has come under the same kind of pressure. I've read a number of letters in the last few months, letters to the editor in the sporting magazines, that Michael Andretti is standoffish, that he won't sign autographs. Now, I know both these men fairly well, and it's not my impression that they are this way at all. Rather, at the track, they are very committed to what they do. And sometimes, because of the intensity of their concentration, they just don't realize what's going on around them.
Well, Danny Sullivan made a quick stop into the Penske pits, back out. He's well off the pace now. Let's go down a little further down the way in the pits. Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, remember when we called the stop on Arie Luyendyk and we said that he tossed his water bottle aside and then ran over it? Well, you can see the marks here. Luyendyk has been called back into the pits for a stop-and-go penalty. Now, Dick Simon, CART told you that the reason was the stop-and-go because he ran over a plastic water bottle.
Yes, that's correct, Jack. Actually, the bottle, in our opinion, is there's nothing in the rule book about a driver's aid, which is basically not equipment. The plastic bottle is plastic for the reason that many times it rolls under the car or something when the driver flips it over. It has not been a major concern in our lives of racing until this situation. And
have you ever hit one? Have you ever seen a driver hit one before and not be penalized?
I've ran over him at least a dozen times and never had to make a stop and go. And now that we're running second place, they make us make a stop and go. I guess that's the way it goes, but I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
A lot of frustration here on pit road, but I guess you're not going to be able to protest or do anything about it.
We can protest. You better believe I'm upset enough. If we don't do very good in this race, you better believe I'll protest it.
Good story, gentlemen.
Well, Jack Arute, stay with us just a moment, because this year we've seen a lot of contact. You certainly saw that in our videotape just before the start of this race. Do you think that the officials are clamping down just a bit on these drivers and crews?
Well, Paul, I think probably what the case is we're here at a high-speed oval. You know, we're traveling well over a football field a second. A lot of what we've seen has been on the road courses. I asked a lot of drivers during the course of the weekend about the bump and run, about some of the shunts that we've seen. And they said, remember, it's on the short courses, a lot of tight corners. Things are a lot different when you're traveling so fast here. As far as what's happened to this team, well, I think it's a rules interpretation. We'll have to wait and see as far as what the outcome will be.
The one factor about a stop-and-go penalty when it's assessed in the running, as we take a look at the top five, when it's assessed in the running like that, well, you can never give it back to you. So Mario Andretti is about 16 seconds out in front of the second-place car, his son, Michael Andretti. Road Handler presents the Michigan 500. We'll be back with more racing after this message and a word from our ABC station.
Is a temporary shopping street for souvenirs, a row of trailers that travel from race to race. At one trailer, things are a little different. The proprietors are Bill and Skip Mears. And what they sell here, you can't get anywhere else, nor would you want to, because half the fun is shooting the breeze with the champs, Mom and Dad. A touch of their enthusiasm gives you a hint why their son is so special.
We've never did this before, and so we just decided this was the time to do it while we had a chance.
Page family spent a little money at that stand today, picked up a T-shirt or two. Rick Mears, running in third place, works around the track. Remember, he had a stop-and-go penalty that took him out of the lead of this race and put him back in the field behind first Mario and then Michael Andretti. Let's go to the pits. Bobby Rahal has his problems, and Jack Arute is there.
Well, Paul, Bobby Rahal's been on pit road for approximately 2.5 minutes right now. They have exchanged the battery here, as you can see on the car, and they have changed the spark box as well. So far, that has not cured the problem. They're trying to make some additional changes and hopefully refire the engine, take him back out into the hunt, but he is well down off the pace of the lead teams.
Bad break for Maury Cranes and that team. Rahal was running in 4th place when he fell out. So all of the major changes has been right in the front of the field. We've been trying to stay with those. Good run, though, for Phil Kruger, making his first start of this year. He started 28th in this field of 29 and is currently running in 9th place.
Rahal told me just before the start, he said, I don't believe this race will go to the swiftest. And I think he imagined himself perhaps taking it, but of course not now with that long stop.
On board with Michael, another driver here that knows that you have to be so very careful. When Michael won this race a couple of years ago, he was totally fatigued. He got out of the car, but he could barely stand up. You look just to the right of his helmet there, that big black pad. Michael's put that in there because when they turn into the corners, he is thrust over against that pad with 5 G's of force, or 5 times the weight of his head and helmet thrust against that pad.
But Michael is a very different man now than he was 2 years ago when he won this race. We're looking at his face. He's a much more mature person in much better physical shape. He really understands the demands that racing makes upon him, and he has stepped up to those demands.
Another thing, you know, that a lot of the guys wear helmet straps right there off the left side of their helmet, down under their shoulder and around. And the problem is your head with 5 G's of force cuts off the blood circulation underneath. So that's the reason Mario's using that pad on the right-hand side.
We look at Michael Andretti. He runs in 2nd place. Michael and Mario teamed up, separated by about 15 seconds, are running at 215 miles an hour. And look at Rick Mears as he makes a charge on Arie Luyendyk. Not a battle for position, but Arie is back running up at speed. Arie is running in 6th place. Rick Mears is running in 3rd. But the 2 cars were at the relative same speed a bit earlier. That gives you an idea that Rick Mears has definitely picked up the pace, and his car is running well.
And keep in mind that Arie's had 2 strikes against him. He hit it under the green when a lot of the other guys got a pit stop under the yellow, which was just a little bit bad planning. And then also he got that stop-and-go penalty for running over his plastic bottle, of which there'll obviously be arguments about that for a long time to come.
This is a big day for Rick Mears because he has been discouraged, even depressed, I think, by the success of the Pat Patrick, Emerson Fittipaldi team using exactly the same chassis as he had. Rick is known as a master of setting up chassis, and yet he admitted to us the other day that the Pat Patrick team, under the direction of Mo Nunn, the engineer there, had found something that the Penske team had not been able to find. And when he was out-qualified to the pole here yesterday, that only underlined the discomfiture that Rick has felt.
All right, there is the leader, Mario Andretti, and there's Michael, and there is Rick. So Rick is now closing down. That white car right at the left edge of the screen was Michael as he went around. This is Rick as he comes across the stripe. There's just a couple of seconds. There you see it once again. And Rick is definitely closing down on Michael Andretti. So the battle continues at the front of this field. Remember that while Rick qualified alongside of Emerson Fittipaldi, he was by far the fastest in the final practice session. Now, the final practice session is almost always conducted with a full fuel load, so that may in fact have also been something to predict the performance that we are seeing from Rick Mears now.
And also the race engines go in, the qualifying engines out, Paul, so that's what you really see the race is going to look like.
Well, we've seen a lot of bumping back and forth this year. We take a look at the leader of the race, Mario Andretti. He had his problems a couple of weeks ago at Toronto, tried to move around Teo Fabi and slice the side of the car off. Michael Andretti was able to get past that situation in which Mario ran into the side of a parked car. Michael had a confrontation with Emerson Fittipaldi on the final lap, but won the race. Michael, we asked about the increasing number of bumps in racing.
So competitive, very, very competitive. You have guys running the same speed, and you're going down the last lap. You know, I mean, there's a lot on the line, and you tend to take more chances because of that. And, you know, it's just, it's racing. It's good racing. I don't think I don't think the drivers are willing to put each other in any danger. I think where most of, with the exception of Indianapolis, which I think was more a problem of traffic being in front of Emerson and things like that, I think it's all been done in slower corners, things where, you know, guys pretty much know that, you know, they're not going to get hurt. You know, they're not putting the other guy in danger. And it's also that we're running so close together, you know, that, you know, we're dealing with inches. And sometimes we cut a little too close.
Well, Michael, like many of the other drivers, says that the confrontations, at least on the road courses, have not been that much of a problem. We're at the Michigan 500. 107 laps are now complete. 250 laps, the scheduled distance. The course 2 miles around. I'm Paul Page with Sam Posey, Bobby Unser, Brian Hammonds, and Jack Arute. Mario Andretti is the leader of the race as he's just flashed across the line with 108 laps complete. The battle on the circuit is the one we're watching as Michael Andretti tries to hold off a charging Rick Mears. On the start, Teo Fabi picked up the lead. Rick Mears right now moving down inside. We'll keep an eye on this battle. Then by lap 3, Emerson Fittipaldi picked up the lead, and then the yellow came out as Rich Vogler and Steve Chassis got together. That brought out a caution period. On lap 44, Emerson Fittipaldi went into the pits but missed his stop, had to go around. It was very costly for Fittipaldi and has pushed him down to the 10th place that he now occupies. Then the leader of the race was Rick Mears, and he missed a pit stop as well. Coming out of the pits, got over the yellow line, and as a result had a stop-and-go penalty. And as a result of all that movement, well, Mario Andretti and Michael Andretti started a battle that finally put Mario out in front with Michael in second place, and that brings us to the battle we watch at this moment as Michael Andretti tries to hold off that bright yellow car of Rick Mears. They're coming up behind Bobby Rahal, who was running fourth until he had a lengthy pit stop where they had to make some electronic changes on his car.
What you're seeing between Michael and Rick, Paul, is you're seeing a Lola and a Penske chassis having a battle. The engines are both Chevrolet. They're both identical engines, and you're just seeing the difference between chassis. Now, Rick has the yellow car there, the famous so-called Penske chassis has been so good this year. Now, the white car that Michael is in is a Lola chassis, and that'll show you how far they've come. They've been able to pretty much stay up with the Penske so far.
Well, this battle for second place works its way around Raul Boesel, who is the 4th place car coming up into that fight right now. As there goes Michael, and there is Raul Boesel battling with Rick Mears.
Boesel in 4th is nonetheless 2 laps back.
So that gives you an idea of how the front of this field has been able to move away. Roberto Guerrero has not been spectacular today. He's never been up in the fight, and they have just pushed his number 21 Alfa Romeo powered car to the garage area. As Nick Finoro brings out the yellow flag once again, we scan the track looking for the answer. And it looks as if the caution is out for debris on the circuit. Mario Andretti is the leader of the race. Michael Andretti is in second place, followed by Rick Mears, and then Raul Boesel and Teo Fabi. This is an ideal time for many of the pit stops to take place. Ari Leyendijk in 6th, then Unser Jr. Phil Kruger with a great run up in 8th, then Emerson Fittipaldi and Derek Daly. This yellow really comes at an absolute perfect moment for the leaders of the race. We'll have to watch them and see if they decide to take advantage of this as the first of those comes in. Michael Andretti makes a stop and is out just that quick. Teo Fabi, who was running in 6th, made his move into position as we take a look down through the entire starting field of this, the Michigan 500. Those are all the cars in the race. Let's go to the pits and Jack Arute.
Well, Danny Sullivan, you complained all afternoon of an ill-handling race car, but what finally put you out of the race?
Well, we changed the shocks, changed tires, changed everything we could, and I just felt I was in the way out there and didn't want to keep going, take a chance of causing an accident or being one myself, so I just decided it was better to stop.
Well, as we watch Mario Andretti on pit road, we understand that it wasn't for a lack of trying, though, as well as Rick Mears, your teammate, comes on the pit road. Your hands are pretty well blistered. You really had to fight the wheel all day.
Yeah, these guys tried awful hard. They're the ones with all the blisters burning their hands trying to change the shocks, but they gave it a shot. I just don't know what it is.
Well, that's the story. One national champion is out of this race.
Now, Bobby Unser, there are few things as nasty as a race car that can be so perfect most of the time and then is ill handling when it gets on a circuit like this. The yellow, by the way, is a toe-in on Gordon Johncock, who pulled off the edge of the racing surface, and there you see the former Michigan 500 champion on the tow rope behind the Orton safety vehicle. These are the cars out of the race. Of course, that accident with Rich Vogler and Steve Chassie early on. Randy Lewis went out with an engine. You saw Pancho Carter, after a great run, go up into the front of the field. And Kevin Kogan, you see the rest of the cars out of this 500-mile race.
Ron Himmelgarn came with 2 cars, Paul.
Here is the front of the field as they came across to the green flag. They got a yellow at the start of this run and had to lag a lap before they got green because they weren't lined up well. Teo Fabi was able to move out in front of this field. We take a look as he comes around. This is back at the start of the race. We're actually running under caution right now. Teo Fabi, the Porsche-powered car, really jumped out to a magnificent lead. Emerson Fittipaldi jumped in behind and started to give what chase he could. But for the first few laps, Gary Daly, the team manager, and the crew chief Peter Parrott had to be just totally satisfied with the run of Teo Fabi. Then Emerson Fittipaldi got past, picked up the lead, and then as he came in on one of his stops, he locked up the brakes, missed his pits, and had to go all the way around to complete his pit stop. So that put Fittipaldi well down in the order. Then Rick Mears, as the leader of the race, came in for the stop and was forced into this situation, which is a stop-and-go penalty. Now, that was because he got above the yellow line on the exit of the pit from his stop. Then Michael Andretti, the leader, had this problem. He just lit the back tires as he came out, and he was turned around in the pits, had to come in for a stop-and-go penalty as well. So we're under caution right now, and that is Gordon Johncock behind the safety vehicle being towed. The yellow flag flies once again. 115 laps are complete. Michael Andretti is the leader. Well, you look down on Michigan International from the Goodyear blimp, the Enterprise, from Pompano Beach, Florida. The 2-mile high bank circuit. We're still under yellow. Captain Crew Marshall. Line up there today in an overcast sky now. Still a possibility of rain here, though it doesn't seem to be imminent. 54th consecutive year that a Goodyear blimp has floated so majestically over IndyCar and automobile racing in general in the United States. Now, we anticipate coming back to the green flag very shortly. And when we do, this is the situation. Michael, Mario, Rick Mears are all lined up one behind another as they come back to the green. Teo Fabi and Raul Boesel are also right behind one another, though they are one lap down. We should be able to see all of those as they come back to green, begin to engage one another as we're beginning to approach the halfway point, 250 miles in this 500-mile race. 117 laps are now complete, 250 the scheduled distance, 250 times around this track. There's Mario and Michael right behind one another, and Rick Mears first, second, and third. That is Al Unser Jr. that separates Michael from Mario. He is certainly conscious of his position, which is 7th, and 2 laps off the pace, and he knows that the leaders are right there. Now the pace begins to quicken. PPG pace car maneuvers down low, sets its sights on the pit lane. Rahal that's actually in front of the field, but will focus on Michael and Mario Andretti. Michael leads the race. Little Al accelerates, gets a bit ahead of Michael as they head into the first turn now, and the Andrettis try to bottle up and get around as they begin to fight. Rick Mears is well back. He got caught behind a slower car on that restart.
Well, you know, again, the way the race was before and the way it is right now, Paul, the leaders are back in the middle of the pack. They have to go through all that traffic. Makes for a better race, but boy, sure makes it hard with the traffic problem.
Now the 2 cars out of the Paul Newman, Carl Haas team now battling for the lead of the race once again. As they circle this track, there they are, Little Al Unser Jr. sitting up on the high side of the course as Michael is able to work his way past. Little Al not part of this fight, but Rick Mears gets past Mario. Mears comes past Mario and picks up second.
Now Rick has said he's going to lay back a little bit today. Remember we talked to him, said he wasn't going to let Emil drive him to death, but now halfway in the race, we're up and going. It looks like he is, Paul.
There's something in Rick Mears' personality. He likes to wait for the halfway point in 500-mile races to really start making his move. There you see his wife, Chris, urging him on. She is a wonderful person. By the way, after the Indianapolis 500, where Rick Mears was so disappointed, a big chance to win his 4th Indy, snatched away from him by mechanical failure, Chris came out to the swimming pool, cheered him and her family and everybody up.
While that fight was going on for second place, Arie Luyendyk was able to take advantage of a slowing Raul Boesel and get past both Boesel and Bobby. Boesel has come well off of the pace now and is not at full speed on this track. There's Mario as Michael comes down into the pits and Mario picks up the lead. This is another stop-and-go penalty. Let's go to Brian Hammond.
Well, the reason for the stop-and-go, CART penalized Michael Andretti for a pit entrance violation. He passed under yellow coming into the pits during that last yellow flag. That's why Michael was penalized for the stop-and-go penalty.
And coming out there, Bobby got his right wheels perilously close to that yellow line.
It's an awful close call. I bet you somebody's watching it really close, but it looks like they're going to need a traffic policeman come to the pits to do all stop-and-go.
Boy, the officials are on top of everything today.
Watching very closely, we mentioned Boesel. There he is, the 30 car. They kept the engine running. Now they shut her down as they take the cowling off. He was running in 6th place before this situation developed.
This team is based in nearby Adrian, Michigan. They're the closest thing in this race to being a home team to this track.
Boesel has really been doing a good job, and he's been pretty fast all day. He's just been off a little bit on the pit stop as far as the timing when he comes in.
Boesel, the 30 car started 22nd and was 6th when he came into the pit for this stop. Let's go to Jackaroo.
Paul, people that are really pumped up right now are these people on pit road for Rick Mears. They're very much aware of the misfortunes that have befallen the current point leader in PP IndyCar World Series points. Of course, that's Emerson Fittipaldi. What they're all pumped up about now is they know they've got to turn it around. As we watch Chris Mears in the camera, they feel now if they can run very well and win this race, they can grab momentum away from Fittipaldi's team and take it all the way to the championship. All during the day today, before the start of this race, that's all they talked about, is the fact that this had to be the turning point for Team Penske. If they could turn it around today, they could get back on the march to the top of the point standings.
Well, Rick Mears has definitely turned the wick up. He's run laps above 222 miles an hour. That's 4 miles an hour faster than he qualified. And there you see him maneuvering in the same area as Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi is now running 8th, so he's beginning to sneak back up in this field, though he is still 2 laps behind Mears, the leader.
There's something, as I said, about Rick where he likes to wait to the second half of the race to really make his moves. And I think if you think of him off season, he loves to hunt. When he races, it's almost a metaphor for hunting. He waits, he finds his prey, sets it up. That's the first half, and then he moves in for the attack.
Well, 250 miles, half of the distance, are now into the record books in this, the 9th Michigan 500. And Rick Mears is the leader. We'll be back.
Now total.
Back past the halfway point now at the Michigan 500. Rick Mears is the leader of the race. Works his way down the backstretch. A.J. Foyt started 25th. He was up to 6th place. Just now was assessed a black flag to bring him in on a stop-and-go penalty for a pit entry violation, as the officials are definitely becoming part of the run here and enforcing the rules vigorously in this, the Michigan 500. Mears works his way around. There's Bobby Rahal. Rahal running off the pace is running down in 14th. Let's check more on this decision by the officials and their attitude today. Here's Jackaroo.
Well, it's beginning to look a lot like the officials are calling this a lot like you would a championship basketball game, calling even the questionable fouls, not letting anything get by them. Now, Billy Camphausen is a spokesman for CART. Billy, you're really calling this one awfully tight to the vest. A lot of violations, stop and goes, but you're not letting anybody get away with anything.
So the violations are being called the way we see them, the same as we would always see them.
Now, there was some complaints by Arie Luyendyk's team that running over a plastic water bottle may not have really fallen into a pit infraction. What's CART's position?
The water bottle is part of the equipment. It shouldn't be thrown in the condition that it did, and it landed in the pit area. He ran over it with rear tires, and that is a penalty.
Like I said, it looks a lot like sometimes, you know, when a basketball player slaps another one, they call a personal foul, and sometimes they don't. You're not getting away with anything here on pit road.
Well, Bobby Unser, you got a few thousand miles on this circuit under both rules of CART and USAC before that.
Well, Paul, we've all watched a lot of water bottles. They're just plastic, and we've watched them get run over many a time, and they don't really hurt people. And I think it's a little bit questionable on why they're deciding today to pick on things quite that tight.
Jack made the point earlier that Rick Mears, who we see here now leading the race, if he could succeed today, could start to whittle away the points lead that Emerson Fittipaldi has coming into this race. Now, that lead was 40 points going into this race. You see,
you saw Rick Mears come through. We're looking back to second place, and there he is, Mario Andretti. As we take a look at this battle constantly at the front of the field.
Let's suppose Rick can win today and Emerson scores no points. That would cut the point lead in half, down to 20 points. The interesting thing is that in the past,
we've got a yellow as Bernard Jourdain lights up an engine. Turbocharger combination brings it into the pits. So we are under caution once again at 134 laps, and that should bring the leader of the race, Rick Mears, in. And indeed, he turns his car down onto pit road and into the Penske pits.
Richard Buck's team, Team Penske, for Rick Mears. They've gone to work. They're checking as if they were going to change tires from the helmet cam. You can see they've elected not to. A very quick stop as he pulls out and away past his teammate. Al Unser Sr. is also on pit road.
Interesting view from that little camera mounted on the earpiece of Richard Buck's headphones. Bernard Jourdain's car now. The Horton safety team is right there.
Well, it sure shows you how much a pit man moves around. We couldn't really tell where the camera was half the time there.
There you see it again as he looks down to Roger Penske. And there is Michael Andretti in, again under this caution, as he makes a stop. The Newman Haas crew gives it a shove, and they're back into the run.
You notice how much easier Michael's taking off out of the pits now. He's not breaking his tires loose. He doesn't want to spin again, Paul.
So back into the action goes the 6th car of Michael Andretti. Road Handler presents the Michigan 500. We'll be back with more racing after this message and a word from our ABC station. Back at the Michigan 500 under the caution as the field rolls around and should be coming back to a green flag very shortly. Interesting tactics here. Mario Andretti is the leader. He did not stop during this caution, but his son Michael did. Now, the predicted stop for Mario Andretti should be about the 155th lap. We are at the 138th lap. Ari Luyendyk made a stop, had a little bit of a problem. He locked his wheels up as he came into the pits. And the question, of course, is Michael and Mario Andretti. Michael makes a stop, protecting their position in 3rd place, while Mario, the leader of the race, is apparently going to gamble on the possibility of another caution before he would have to make his scheduled stop at 155, or that he is going to get enough of a lead running a little lighter fuel load than the others and get out far enough in front to make his stop without losing the lead, or at least losing a front position. Mario Andretti is the leader. Rick Mears is 2nd. Michael Andretti is 3rd as they come back toward the green flag. Emerson Fittipaldi, there he is, has worked his way now up and lies in 8th place. But he is still 2 laps behind the leaders. He didn't pick up any particular advantage during this caution period. Now the green flag comes out again. We watch for the front of the field as Mario Andretti will have clean air and clean sailing ahead and already begins to pull a little bit on Rick Mears. Michael Andretti battling with Emerson Fittipaldi, not for position, but Michael just to get past so that he can do battle with Rick Mears, the 2nd place runner.
Well, and that's a hard one to get around. This ought to be a good race right here. Michael right behind Emerson Fittipaldi, or behind Al. The cars look identical, the same. You really can't see the difference till you see the numbers, Paul.
Not often you miss your own brother on the track. And he got around him, so now he is able to close up and start to fight with Rick Mears. But this will give Mario Andretti an opportunity for some laps now to run just totally flat out. And remember, he is not carrying a full fuel load. In fact, it's about halfway down. He should be able to really turn some laps. They were averaging some laps above 220 just before this caution period.
Well, we knew that they were going to be running over 220 during the race, and they certainly are doing it. And Mario, like you brought up just a little bit ago, opt for the clean air. Get some distance between he and the other cars. Now we're going to see whether he's going to be able to put that on Rick and on his son, Michael. Because it's really, really going to be hard to make up a yellow flag stop.
We are about to, there's Roger Penske, you see him from the back. We are about to witness an exciting battle for the lead, I believe, between two men of very dissimilar backgrounds. Mario Andretti on the left, currently leading. Rick Mears closing in on it. Andretti's career, of course, immensely varied. Formula One world champion, experience all through Europe. Rick Mears is concentrated on this form of racing, and more to the point, on super speedway racing, just like this.
One of the best there is, that yellow number 4 car, as he pulls down inside Mario Andretti and picks up the lead. You can't find a finer oval driver in the world than Rick Mears. His wife, Chris, Barbara Hellier, alongside the chief scorer for the Penske team, has just marked Rick Mears out in front.
Let me tell you one reason why Rick is such a good oval driver. There's A.J. Foyt in car number 14, slowing down, the 4 times Indy champion. Back to the idea of Rick Mears, why he is so good here. Because the car is in a corner for so long. Rick's exceptional ability to feel a car and how it is cornering comes into play, and he is able to make the correct adjustment during the pit stops. The shorter turns of road racing can't bring that edge that he has over the others to bear. Mario, incidentally, able to hang on in the slipstream of Rick Mears here and is not giving up.
So if Mario had any idea of pulling out a lead on Rick and protecting a possible pit stop in about 12 laps, that's certainly gone away now as Rick Mears worked his way back, picked up the lead. Mario is second.
That's pit strategy that comes from the pit. There's A.J. Foyt in the pit with obviously some sort of a serious problem because he's getting out called. But Rick, or excuse me, the deal with Mario not coming in is a pit strategy they did. They probably thought he could put some clean air between he and Rick Mears by staying out. Obviously, it didn't work out, so we're going to wonder if they don't get a yellow, whether they should have come in that last one or not.
One of the greatest drivers ever to take an IndyCar wheel in hand, A.J. Foyt, steps out of his car and away. His Michigan 500 is apparently done.
But you know,
he had a great run there for a while.
But you know, Paul, while other drivers, I think, have conceded the fact that in this day of racing, you have to really have a top team. The driver, you see Jack Starnes, AJ's crew chief there. You really have to have a terrific team behind you. And AJ, although he has Starnes and many other good men on the team, does not have the total team to put him at the front. He's got to do something about that.
Let's go to Brian.
A.J. Foyt out of the race after a tremendous run. What happened, A.J.?
Well, actually, all I've had is mechanical problems. The guys aren't got their heads together and just flat got their heads up their ass, if you want to know the truth about it.
You were running 5th today. You were running very strong early.
I know, but the car was screwed up from the first lap on. The wastegate was open and closing. I was having trouble there, and then the bearing went out. We got here, they left the fuel lines loose. It caught the car on fire. Then they leave the bella loose. They cross-thread 2 rear nuts. They're just screwed up. That's all. I need to make a change.
A.J. Foyt not happy with his crew here at Michigan. Paul?
You know, it's too bad, too, because I'm of the opinion that if A.J. Foyt would use that team and test a little bit more and spend more time in practice, he'd be up running with the likes of a Rick Mears any day.
I, too, would jump to the defense of some of his men. There's Chris.
He's had a hot spell here lately. You know, he's been going fast. There's Emo into the pits again. Foyt's had a hot streak here lately. He's really been fast in the stock cars and the IROC cars. And there he is leaving on his little bike. And he wants to race right now. I don't care how old he is. The guy is racy right now, so he needs to get his team lined up and get things where he's happy again.
And as we saw in the IROC yesterday, and we'll no doubt see again in 2 weeks when we see the final round of the 4-race IROC series, Foyt is still capable of throwing a race car around a racetrack. He is terrific.
Well, the team seems to have prepared his motor scooter quite well. It's running beautifully.
Now maybe A.J. works on that himself. Fittipaldi still sits in the Patrick pits as he plummets now down through the standings. He had worked his way well up to about 7th, and now is falling through the standings very quickly, and is 4 laps behind the leader, Rick Mears. Mears at the front of the race. Mario Andretti is in 2nd. In 3rd place is Michael Andretti. But Rick Mears, that bright yellow car out in front, does very well on the oval. It's been some time, back 1983, since he's done well on a road course. We asked him his point of view, the difference between ovals and road courses.
I think probably the main difference is working with the chassis. It responds more on an oval because of higher speeds, and spending more time in a corner to analyze what the car is doing. I can pick out finer things in setup and aerodynamic packages on an oval than I can on a road course. A road course where you're in and out of a corner much quicker. It's a little different technique, and I think liking to deal with chassis and aerodynamics the way I do, I have more time to play with it on an oval, more time to see what the chassis is doing, to feel what the chassis is doing, and separate things and pinpoint things a little bit more accurately. Because of the length of the corner and the time you spend in it, I think that's probably the biggest difference.
200 miles left to go now in the Michigan 500. 300 miles complete for Rick Mears, the leader of the race. Look at this. This is a major overhaul they're doing on the right rear of Emerson Fittipaldi's car. Jack Arute is right there.
Paul, we can tell you just how important points are. What they have done is they have lost a CV joint, one of the constant velocity joints, kind of like a universal joint that you would have in mine or your car. They're going to attempt to make the exchange and get back out. It'd be tough to gain points the way CART PPG IndyCar World Series points are given, but they're going to give it, as they say, the old college try. They're going to change this and get back out racing.
Well, of course, even despite the fact that he may not finish in the points at this race, Emerson Fittipaldi will leave this track still with the point lead. As they work on Fittipaldi's car, Rick Mears is the leader, averaging above 218 miles an hour. Projected with 155 laps into the record book. Mario Andretti came in for fuel. This is the conclusion of his stop now. It's gone a rather lengthy stop. Something's wrong. They need to get the engine fired back up again. They killed the engine. Let's go to Brian.
I think Mario Andretti ran out of fuel. He came coasting into the pits. They put fuel back in the car. They had to refire it. It's awfully tough to start a hot engine, but I believe Mario Andretti was out of fuel when he came in, Paul.
A 28-second stop. It did seem that he slowed a little bit early. He actually started slowing down on the approach to the third turn here. That would be a little early for someone running in the lead of the race. So Mario Andretti tried to stretch it, and it apparently didn't work for him. Michael Andretti, though, still part of the same team, but they wisely stopped Michael back when Rick Mears made his stop, so he's definitely in contact with the leader as we take a look in the pits of the Penske team. Rick Mears' crew, the leader of the race.
Mears is an inherently shy and very private person. He avoids parties. He stays in his room as much as he can in the motorhomes at the track. But when the occasion requires it, is to come out into public and make a speech. He is terrific at it and very much loved by the people that he makes contact with.
Let's go back down to the pits again, Brian Hampson.
Well, that indeed was the problem. Mario Andretti ran the string out as long as he could. He was flat out of fuel coasting into the pits. Luckily, he made it back in. He was refueled, and now he's back.
Well, our prediction was a 155 lap stop for Mario. He took it all the way, actually crossed the line, finishing 156 when he came in. So that extra 2 miles was a little costly.
You know, when the Penske team really gets geared up halfway through a season, they can be formidable. This gap in the points that they are behind Fittipaldi may not be that big a thing. Remember, at this point exactly last year, this team, the Penske team, began their push with Danny Sullivan. He, at that point, was also down in the standings. They came back and were able to make him into last year's national champion. So this could be, we could be watching the turning point in the 1989 season here. Could be.
Well, consider the Penske team record in 500-mile races. They've won Indy 7 times, Pocono 6 times. They won this race last year, and when it was in operation twice, they won the California 500 Ontario. 16 500-mile race victories for Penske. Is this man, Roger Penske, looking at victory number 17? His car, Rick Mears, his driver, is out in front at the moment.
So often, the wins are decided by the pit decision, by the pit people to say when to come in. We just watched Mario Andretti go down at least one lap. In fact, the lap plus a little bit, just because they didn't want to pit when everybody else did early. Now, it often makes you wonder why they do that.
Well, Rick Mears out in front of the Michigan 500. 162 laps are complete. He has a 2.5 second lead over Michael Andretti. Back at 150 laps. The summary, they were averaging 167 miles an hour. That's not nearly a record. We've seen 5 caution periods for 35 laps, and that doesn't approach the record either. But attrition is high, with 12 of the 29 cars that started already out of this race. Rick Mears, of course, is the leader of the race. We'll take a look at the field after 160 laps as well. There it is at 150 laps. Rick Mears, Mario Andretti, then Michael, Teo Fabi, Derek Daly, Alan Jr., Phil Kruger continues his great run. Pruitt, Fittipaldi, Brayton, Johnny Rutherford, a former winner here, 2-time former IndyCar World Champion, Bobby Rahal, Al Unser, John Jones, Jeff Wood, A.J. Foyt. Who's the last car to retire from this race. Guido Dacco, Bernard Jourdain, Raul Boesel, all out of the run of the Michigan 500. And remember, too, while we're at 164 laps, we're looking back at the stats actually at 150 laps. John Cockerero, Sullivan, all these drivers out of the run. The first two out, of course, Steve Chessie and Rich Vogler in an accident on lap number 3. Neither driver injured in that confrontation. Rick Mears leads Michael Andretti by 2.8 seconds.
Well, he certainly is. Rick is really, really doing good. As we talk, he's got to do good in his ovals because his road course racing has not been all that good. But you'll never find a better one in the ovals.
But guys, as we talked about all this and did the summary, Al Unser Sr., Rick's teammate, ripped by him, which is an interesting thing. Is Rick slowing up a little bit? Has Al found some extra speed? And Bobby, in response to something you said about why the men in the pit can't seem to grasp this strategy, I think you underrate how complex it is sometimes to stand down there in the pits and not see the whole track and not see everything that's going on, and to not have the years of experience that you have. There are very few people that have that.
Well, that's very true, but it's also a big decision with these teams. They spend multi-millions of dollars, and that sometimes is the trigger that makes the gun go off, is the pit decisions.
Third place car, Arie Luyendyk, being challenged by Teo Fabi. Fabi was up there trying to get at the back end of Luyendyk for just a moment. The sole fight on this circuit at the moment, as Rick Mears is still 2.5 seconds out in front of Michael Andretti. Al Unser Jr., while getting around Rick and running fast, is still 10 laps behind the leader. And Rick Mears on his last lap ran it at 220 miles an hour, so he's definitely not slowing down. We'll be back. Back at the Michigan 500, Michael Andretti running in second place, just pulling out of the pits after a routine stop, a little over 15 seconds for Michael. The Newman Haas team, Arie Luyendyk, they just reported smoke at the back of this car, and from time to time you can see the trail of it. Arie Luyendyk was running in third place, but now has reduced speed slightly and will begin to fall backwards. The Porsche-powered machine, Teo Fabi, was chasing Arie Luyendyk at the time, and the yellow comes out as a result of that spray from Luyendyk's car. And Michael Andretti says, I really belong up ahead. I got to go catch Rick Mears. Don't put me behind the pace car.
Oh, he's really trying to sell that program, wasn't he? A little bit of time there makes a big difference on when somebody comes out of the pit. Looks like Arie has an engine problem right there.
Arie Luyendyk was running in third, then that telltale plume of spray at the back of the car brought him into the pits. Rick Mears could be due for a stop any second now. His teammate Al Unser, who is well off the pace, 10 laps behind the lead, has rolled in past the Mears pit. There's the crew waiting, and here is Rick as he begins to down gear and slow for his pit stop, and Jack Aruta's there.
Paul, Rick Mears is showing a lot of poise. Just a few laps ago, he allowed his teammate, who's about 11 laps down, to go by him. He wanted to let him break the air. Now he's come onto pit road. As you take a look from the helmet cam, the work going on by Richard Buck. He has completed his work on the right front. They have changed all 4 tires. They've taken on the fuel. They dropped the jacket. Team Penske is back out on the racetrack.
But not quick enough, as Michael Andretti picked up the lead of the race as Rick came down off the jacks. And look, he comes out once again in the top spot, and Rick came out 5.2 seconds back.
Jack makes a good point, though, about why Rick let Al by him. To draft his teammate, even for just a few laps, could improve his fuel situation should that become critical. The Andretti's, you recall, early in the race, positioned just like this and drafted each other, gaining an advantage back then.
Well, the trek is underway, and when it's done, what a remarkable accomplishment it will be. 6 men, 4,000 miles in 7 months through the summer in Antarctica. It's the Trans-Antarctica. Sam Posey is part of our coverage. It will come up again.
That's 2 weeks from now, of course, but Paul, when you said when it is finished, I wouldn't be so absolutely sure they're going to make it. You know, there's an incredible challenge to this expedition, which, if it succeeds, would be the first ever non-motorized trip across Antarctica. ABC cameras are there. Bob Beatty, see Arie Luyendyk. Bob Beatty has been there for 3 weeks, enduring incredible temperatures and a situation which sees him almost completely out of touch with the rest of the world. We're going to be following that for several months now. It's very exciting.
Interesting scenario when they come back, because Mario is lined up just behind Michael and will try to get around onto the leader lap. It's said the only thing that changes in a big boy's life is the price of his toys. Well, if that's true, then the IndyCar set may be the winners in the end.
In the racing world, there is a compulsive fascination with anything mechanical. Motorhomes are outfitted like Cleopatra's bars. Phones, stereos, VCRs, and yes, even fax machines. This is entry-level stuff these days in the game of whose toys are best. But there is a practical side to the toys, because racing people spend 6 months of the year on the road, and the toys can make the nomads feel more at home. A bedroom and a barbecue. An ice chest full of your sponsor's popsicles. Aha, fooled you. Pit equipment offers an excuse for more toys. And with luck, you might even find a friend to play with. A recent mania is for cellular phones. Talking, riding around, and showing off. All are taken for granted in this world, a world in which the instincts and impulses of childhood seem very much alive. It is a world in which kids have grown up, and so have their toys.
Some of the toys of racing, as Arie Luyendyk is now out of the pits in 7th place, but 4 laps behind the leader of the race, who is now Michael Andretti, as he tries to come up to speed so he can join the rest of the field, which is behind the pace car, already turned down on the pit road, and the green flag comes out. Mario Andretti is lined up right alongside Michael, and will Michael let Mario, his dad, back onto the lead lap? Well, he surely does. Michael's the leader of the race, but Mario gets his lap back. He's now 2 miles behind the race. Running in 3rd place, Rick Mears is in 2nd.
And all this transpired because for some reason they brought Rick just in a little bit late that last time, enabled Michael to get ahead and put Mario a little bit ahead as far as the stereo goes. And right now, Mario is back on the 2nd, or in the same lap, technically, Paul.
On board with Michael Andretti. Let's go to the pits. This report from Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, as we watch the action out on the racetrack, the report on Arie Luyendyk is it was not a blown engine. It was a small seal that connects the hose from the radiators towards the rear of the engine. It popped loose, pulled all the water out of the car. They filled it back up with water, replaced that O-ring, and he's back out on the racetrack.
So if there's no damage to the engine in the time that was out, he should continue to be able to race. But he's down in the field running 7th.
Well, at 12,000 RPM, though, there's a real good chance that damage would happen in no more than, say, a second to 2 seconds, Paul.
Another pit stop of note. You saw Emerson Fittipaldi some time ago in the pits for a replacement of a constant velocity joint. He was in the pits for 19 minutes and 5 seconds. Not your typical IndyCar pit stop.
No, it's really hard to change the CV joint, and it's so dead blurred hot you can't believe it down there.
Well, Rick Mears is trying to work his way down behind Al Unser and trying to catch Michael Andretti, the leader. Go ahead, Jack.
Paul, here's the deal. They normally would have just retired the car, but with attrition as high as it's been, they have calculated, they being Mo Nunn and Pat Patrick and Emerson Fittipaldi, the possibility exists, even though they're so many laps down, they could finish 12th and gain one single point. It could be the difference between winning and losing the World Championship this year.
Now the speed, Paul, it's been over 222 miles an hour by the leaders. That's Rick Mears, Mario Andretti, or Michael Andretti. So we're really having one of the fastest races we've ever seen. It's the yellow flags that make it look like it's going slow.
And let's try and reset the situation at the front of the field here. Michael Andretti is just in front. Rick Mears is closing down only over a second behind Michael. Mario Andretti got around Michael on that restart and is running in front of Michael, but about 2.5 miles back in reality, about 2 miles back in third place. Teo Fabi needs to get out and get around Michael so that he can continue to chase Mario Andretti as well. Those cars all running right together on the course, with two of them, Mario Andretti and Teo Fabi, trying to close the distance on the leader, Michael Andretti, and Rick Mears, who is in second.
Now, it's a yellow flag that could make a difference right now, because remember, if they have a yellow, Mario will be able to come around. He'll be then right back in the same lap and competitive or capable of winning the race again.
Notice that once again, Rick Mears has taken up station behind Al Unser Sr., who in turn is right behind Teo Fabi. Remember, Al Unser now seems to be playing a tactical role in this. Well, no, not for long. So much for that idea.
Now, I don't think they're doing a team deal because Al's way too far back right now, Sam. I think it's just a deal where Rick is trying not to burn the car down. He's still got quite a few miles to go to the end. Rick, of course, is one of the fastest cars on the track, maybe the fastest right now.
One of the key players at the moment is that green and white car of Teo Fabi, as he would like to get around Michael Andretti and get his lap back, so in case of a caution period, he can close down on the third place car of Mario Andretti, and the leaders first through fourth can all close up. Rick Mears seems, for the moment at least, content to keep station about 1.2 seconds behind the leader of the race, Michael Andretti. And there is Rick Mears as he flies down inside Teo Fabi and gets his position back. Fabi had gotten past Mears for a while there.
What they're doing right now, most of the cars, is they have two top gears, Paul. They have a top gear that's for cruising and a top gear that's for racing. And Rick is probably running in his cruising gear right now, trying to make mileage. Remember, you have fewer yellow flags the longer the race goes. So they need to make good mileage now and aim towards the latter part of the race at this point.
Teo Fabi dropping a little further back as Al Unser got behind him as well.
You speak of gears, Bobby. Rick Mears is himself a perfect gear in the Penske machine. Drives the racing car, and that's all he does for Penske, unlike Sullivan, who has some entrepreneurial yearnings of his own.
As Rick Mears moves past, picks up the lead once again. Continued fight at the front of this field. Rick Mears battling now with Michael Andretti. And the Penske team, watch that battle go into the first turn. They're still not sure what happened there.
Now remember, Rick has to get ahead of Mario. That puts him back another lap again. Rick is probably knowing for sure he's got to get ahead of Mario, so if it goes yellow, he puts Mario still back a lap. And that's what he's trying to do right now.
Well, Michael Andretti dropped off the pace quite a bit on that last lap, only ran it at 214 miles an hour. They were both running in traffic. Rick Mears lost the same lap at 217 miles an hour. So Rick is now definitely faster once again. On board with Bobby Rahal. Rahal is running in 11th place. He's well behind the lead as well. Just a head up on the course, those are the leaders of the race. Rick Mears, Michael Andretti, as their fight continues.
And Rick is going to try to pass him here pretty quick. Working up on him in the turns. You can see he seems to have a little bit of turn speed on Michael.
Mario Andretti, and Rick works around Mario. Mario trying to hold on by his fingertips to that lap, and no, Rick puts him yet another lap down. So Rick Mears suddenly really lights up picks up the pace, gets around Michael for the lead, and now puts Mario Andretti down another lap.
You can tell how hard Rick tried right there because he went clear up into the gray stuff, and that's the highest I've seen him up there all day. Roger, with his good old standard poker face, wore him clean.
Well, it may be poker face for the moment, but Roger Penske loves it. Now let's take a look at this. Coming off of 2. This was just a few seconds ago. This was the pass for the lead as Rick Mears just nailed the throttle coming off the second turn and flew past Michael Andretti and out in front. Now Roger communicates on the two-way radio with his driver.
Now that's a good team planning. Roger and Rick are working together just absolutely like a husband and a wife. I mean, they're really, really planning that stuff out. Now most likely, Rick probably ran the lower gear, ran as good as high as it goes. Roger said, hey, you've got to get ahead of Mario to keep him down a lap.
Well, Roger Penske may look calm and reserved, but inside he's loving every minute of it. Racing is his recreation as well as a strong supporting element of his many businesses. And Roger Penske is where he loves to be with his driver Rick Mears out in front. Road Handler presents the Michigan 500. We'll be back with more racing after this message and a word from our ABC station. Third place, Mario Andretti in for a routine stop. Brian Hammonds is there.
Mario Andretti is now out of the pits after an extremely long pit stop. There was a trouble with the fuel nozzle. They were having problems with it. Finally got it out, and Mario's back out on the racetrack.
27.5 seconds for Mario Andretti as he fights the same problem trying to keep his car down below the yellow line. There's the Newman Haas crew as they bring equipment back over the wall at the end of that stop. It's their one time in the race that they have an opportunity really to shine. Mario is off the pace of the pit stops with the other drivers. He was in third and should have been able to protect third place during that stop. The rest of the drivers at the front of the order should all be coming in at about 212 to 217 laps. We are at 196 laps, approaching the 400th mile. Rick Mears is the leader of the race, and we are coming down to what should be a very, very fast run to the finish. Let's go to the pits. Jack Arute.
Well, you know, Rick Mears' hobby is golf, and on this Sunday afternoon, it might be the only time he's able to outdrive this man, Greg Norman. Greg, you've come off of the British Open, a disappointment there, but you'll be at the U.S. Open next week. I mean, the PGA next week, 18-hole coverage at Camper Lakes Golf Club outside in Illinois. As you watch this today, are there anything that you can say maybe translates over to golf? You know, maybe hand-eye coordination or just concentration?
Well, I think, Jack, it's just coordination. You know, if you get a nice smooth day running for you, if your golf swing feels good, and if the car feels good, they're going to run good. So, you know, a lot of it's patience. You can see it's a long race. The same in the golf tournament. It's a long golf tournament. You just got to wait and bide your time, and things will come good in the end.
At the British Open, a big disappointment for you. How long did it take for you to put that out of your mind and concentrate on the next event?
Well, you know, Jack, it really wasn't a disappointment. I mean, I was disappointed I didn't win, but I played great to get myself into the playoff. I shot the lowest score I ever shot in the British Open, so, you know, I feel very proud of being able to do that, and, you know, you've got to really fight for it.
Now, one time, it's known that you're very well actually connected to Nigel Mansell over in Formula One competition. In fact, at one time, there was some discussion about maybe you fielding a Formula One team or being involved. What's the draw for motor racing for Greg Norman?
Well, I've always loved cars, Jack, and I love speed. And, you know, all of my friends like Roger Penske, Jim Williams, and all the drivers around the world love to play golf. So we sort of have the same affinity for it. And, you know, I've always enjoyed it. I don't know why. I'd love to be involved with racing.
Well, you've seen Formula One competition. You've tasted Kart PPG World Series competition. Which is better? Which do you like better?
Well, they're both exciting, you know. I mean, oval racing is totally different from road racing, and, you know, they're both exactly the same. You've got to have your concentration and powers about it, and, you know, a lot of things, too, as a team. And the whole team gets together and works well, so I enjoy watching both of them.
Well, we'll be enjoying watching him as well, Paul Page, next week. 18-hole coverage right here on ABC. He'll be one of the strong suitors for the PGA.
That's right, Jack. Greg Norman, the 1986 British Open champion at Turnberry. Don't forget, we'll give you live 18-hole coverage of the third and fourth rounds of the PGA Championship with a crash here. Two cars. Bill Kruger up on the high side.
And John
and the
Jones,
yellow comes out. John
perhaps,
Jones is the car down on the low
Canadian.
side. Rescue vehicles are right there. Kruger is stopped in the center of the track. The yellow comes out. John Jones climbs out of his car. And Michael Andretti, the leader of the race, comes in. Rick Mears' crew waits for him as well, taking advantage of this yellow, which, of course, will change the tactics for the end of the race. We have just 98 miles to go. Rescue crews over at Kruger's car as John Jones walks away, obviously uninjured. One of the safety crew chases him down, wants to make sure that he's absolutely okay. A disappointed John Jones after that accident, the yellow flag out. Let's take a look again.
Obviously, one of the cars spun, Paul, and the other one just got trapped into getting into it. That's what was really close. Now, that was good driving to go in between the tire and the car.
Let's go to the pits and Jack.
Well, it looks to be a routine stop for Rick Mears. Under the luxury of the caution, Richard Buck and the team of Team Penske have adjusted the left front wing just a little bit, and they've sent him back out onto the racetrack. A good stop for this team.
So Rick Mears, the leader of the race, with the caution, comes in, makes his stop, and rolls out of the pits. But there is the very real possibility he'll give up the lead. We'll be back. Of the 44 car of Phil Kruger. He is still in the car. The Horton safety team, doctors, firemen, rescue personnel, paramedics, all crowded around the car in a precise drill that is often rehearsed. They have the jaws of life available if they need to cut Phil out of the car. They're taking their time and working with him. There is no indication as to what his condition might be. We don't yet have a report from the track itself. He was involved in a crash against the outside wall with John Jones. Jones climbed out of his car and walked away. Well, naturally, the caution flag is out as the field strings around. Now, the Indy cars routinely hit concrete walls at better than 200 miles an hour. The driver climbs out more often than not, waves at the crowd, and walks away. These are the safest cars in the world. Jack Arute looks at why.
When Ray Haroon captured the first Indianapolis 500, the cars reflected the automobile industry at the time. The Marmon Wasp, like its contemporaries, was a relatively new invention, and the concentration was upon ensuring that the car would stand the test of 500 miles. Safety was a low priority. Because the cars were primitive, more times than not, they failed. As the sport evolved, so did the cars. By the early 1950s, competitors were at the controls of an Indy Roadster, a vehicle built specifically for the rigors of Indianapolis. Simply put, the Indy Roadsters were iron cars for iron men. They were bulky and built high off the ground. These monsters were welded together with enough steel to absorb the hardest of impacts. In a crash, the cars would spin, turn, toss about, and tumble. By the mid-70s, engines had moved to the rear and cars were built lower to the ground. Side pods and aerodynamic tunnels were added for stability, as well as a wing. The key was to provide an envelope of survivability for the driver. Cars were specially designed to disintegrate in a crash, taking with each detached part a portion of the crash's energy. The concept, though, was still in its infant state, and while drivers would often survive, their bodies would still take a terrible beating. As we approach the 21st century, safety plays an equal role with speed. Modern engineers have incorporated space-age materials into their car designs. Driver positioning has been refined, so they're encapsulated in an area called the tub. With the advent of these innovations, a crash at 225 miles per hour makes one gasp. But thanks to high-tech computer design methods and electronic wizardry, drivers can now, more often than not, walk away to race another day.
The Horton safety team still working at Phil Kruger's car. Phil was running 8th. He started 28th, so he was having a marvelous run.
His best finish ever in IndyCar racing was a 5th here last year.
So we're under caution at the Michigan 500. Michael Andretti has the lead behind the pace car. Rick Mears is right behind him. We'll be back right after this. We're back at the Michigan 500. Phil Kruger is still in his broken race car, sitting just off the exit of the second turn, and they continue to work with him taking their time, being very, very careful, because so often in the olden days of racing, you just run over and snatch a driver out of the car and injure him more than he actually was injured in the accident. You look down from the Goodyear blimp riding overhead, giving another view of this accident.
Phil Kruger. Kruger is a gentle, very special man who used to work as a chef in a restaurant in Newport Beach, and then a passion for racing led him to become a mechanic so that he could get closer to it. But what he really wanted to do, has wanted to do all along, is to be a driver. He's had a real up and down career, always at the tail end of the field in these races. But I believe he's a man of immense ability, and I certainly hope that he has not again been hurt, because he's been hurt a couple of times seriously in cars.
Well, he needs Les Richter down there. I felt like that one time, Sam, and Les Richter is so big and strong, being the next big football player tackle, just reached down and grabbed me by the shoulders and gently lifted me out like a crane doing it. And I think that's what Phil needs right there.
And of course, they're being careful because you don't know what structure on the race car might be closed in around his feet or parts of his body. You see the field now very slowly moving past. No indication now of the condition of Phil Kruger, though obviously at first they were talking with him, and they have been doing their best to get him out of that car. The crew's all still right there with him. The Michigan 500 has had a punctuated past with a number of serious accidents. This high-banked oval here has taken its toll on race cars throughout the 9-year history of this race. In 1981, the inaugural race was rain delayed a week. The green flag fell on one of the fastest 500 race fields. But as the pit stop started, Herm Johnson's car and then pit erupted in flames. The race was stopped for 2 hours. There were no serious injuries. A.J. Foyt slammed the wall and was airlifted out of the track with a shattered right arm. Pancho Carter scored his first and only IndyCar win 6 hours after the race started. In 1982, A.J. Foyt was back, only to tangle with Hector Rabake. To everyone's surprise, neither driver was injured, but the drivers began to report the tremendous physical and mental toll taken by the run on the high banks. The pole sitter, Mario Andretti, started last after destroying his car in practice. He finished second behind winner Gordon Johncock, making it a sweep for the top 2 spots for the hometown owner, Pat Patrick. In 1983, the stress on man and machine continued. The defending champion, Gordon Johncock, crashed heavily with Kevin Kogan. Johncock suffered broken legs, but kept a brave punt. On the last lap, Rick Mears was leading, being chased by rookie John Paul Jr. Paul pushed past Mears, and as he did, spoiled the air to Rick's wing, sending Mears to the wall, along with Chris Neifel. John Paul Jr. scored his only IndyCar win in a race that saw 25 lead changes among 11 drivers. 1984 may have been the most costly IndyCar race ever. Early in the run, Phil Kruger crashed, destroying his car. Gary Bettenhausen tangled with Howdy Holmes. One car literally spinning on top of the other. Both drivers walked away. Coming off of turn 2, Chip Ganassi taking Al Unser Jr. to the inside fence in a frightening crash. On the last lap, Pancho Carter flipped down the backstretch. As he hit the guardrail, he cut 12-inch posts off at the base. When the car finally came to a rest, the former champion was not injured. Mario Andretti took the win of the race after 22 lead changes between 11 drivers. '85 saw caution flags fly 13 times for 104 laps. The backstretch claimed another victim as Danny Angaya slipped several hundred yards. Mario Andretti slammed the wall in the first accident of his career that would cause him to miss a later race. He would be replaced in the cockpit by Formula One ace Alan Jones. Emerson Fittipaldi held on to score his first IndyCar win. Rick Mears set the current track record at 223 miles an hour in 1986 to sit on the pole. Roberto Guerrero crashed, and Mario Andretti caught fire. It was Johnny Rutherford that took the win. In '87, Mario Andretti put 5 miles on the rest of the field only to have his engine fail and give way to his son Michael. The Andretti family led 247 of the 250 laps, the fastest IndyCar 500 to that date at 171 mile an hour average. The morning of the 1988 race, Danny Sullivan had the flu. Derek Daly caught the wall hard. But despite his illness, Sullivan scored Roger Penske's first win at his own 500. The race was 180.6 mile an hour and is the record for the fastest 500 ever.
Well, here on pit road, we are still under caution here at MIS, but a lot has happened right behind me here in Team Penske. Approximately 45 seconds ago, Roger Penske signed a statement and filed it with Chuck Sprague. He instructed Chuck to take money and the statement to CART PPG IndyCar officials and file an official protest concerning the running of this race. What it revolves around is a discrepancy as to whether Mario and Michael Andretti legally passed Rick Mears on the exit of pit road. Just to cover his bases, he's filed the protest in advance just so that they can discuss it afterwards and have it all ready in the record book that he doesn't like what's going on. They did talk to CART PPG IndyCar officials for approximately 5 minutes during this caution, and seemingly not to Roger Penske's satisfaction, he's gone ahead to file the protest. Let's check in with Brian Hammonds, who has information on John Jones.
Jack, I'm with John Jones, who just left the Horton Medical Unit. First of all, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's, you know, just one of those things. I was running high, and I seen Phil coming up, and, you know, I expect him to go down low like everyone else was letting him, and he just, you know, hit the back nine and spun around and hit the wall. I'm fine. I think he's in worse condition than I am, so hopefully he'll be all right.
All right, John Jones, he's okay. Paul?
All right, well, John Jones out of his car, no problem. He climbed out immediately, but Phil Kruger, you see he is on the stretcher being loaded into the ambulance here at Michigan International. He was involved in accidents in the Michigan 500 in both 1984 and 1985, and now again with this situation here. We certainly wish the best for Phil Kruger, and we'll try and give you an update on his condition just as soon as the CART officials and the Horton safety team report it to us. The last thing that you want to do at this point is to speculate on what his condition might be. Now let's consider this situation with Rick Mears and the protest that Jack Arute just described to you. And here is Rick as he came off of the pit stop, Bobby Unser. Now, as he's coming out, it is Michael Andretti that is closing on the main stretch. There's the line. At that point, now look, watch, here comes Michael at the right of your screen. That's Michael. Now, the assumption, Bobby Unser, that Penske is making, and that seems to be backed up, though you don't actually see the meeting at the line, is that Rick Mears got to that line before Michael Andretti did.
And what's going to happen, Paul, is Rick has a radio right to Roger Penske. Rick will have been right. He will have been knowing exactly what happened there, and Michael actually was behind him. And what happened is I think CART thinks that Mario, who was ahead of the other white car...
Oh, is that Mears well ahead at this point there from the onboard camera, Bobby?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that's the reason Penske would never file a protest, as he did, without Rick telling by radio that he was right. And Penske will go all the way with that, I promise.
Well, the officials seem to have been heavily involved in this particular run here. And in that situation, it certainly looks from Michael Andretti's onboard camera as if Michael was well behind Rick Mears when Rick came out of the pits, and that's the reason that Roger Penske decided to file that protest that Jack Arute reported on.
I think it's just a simple thing that it was a white car and just CART got mixed up that way is what it looks like.
Well, Mario was just ahead there. Let's go down to Jack again.
Well, Paul, not only did Roger Penske talk to Rick Mears, but CART officials talked to Rick Mears. When they came over and they were in the middle of the discussion, Roger Penske took his headset radio off and said, here, you talk directly to Rick. Let Rick explain to you what occurred. It still was not to CART's satisfaction. That's when Roger decided to make the protest.
All right, well, we've seen it from the onboard camera. We look at it again. This is a camera located on the top of the grandstand, almost over the start-finish line. Now, that's Mario. That's the first white car. He has a bright red number. Now, here comes Rick. Now, watch the right of the screen, and there comes Michael. Now, that would give you to believe that Rick was well ahead when they hit the line. Now the question is also resolved by the other shot from Michael's own onboard camera. It appears that Michael got to the line behind Rick, and therefore Rick Mears should be in front of the field when they come back to green.
Well, Penske's and Rick's going to be right on this thing. The only thing is how do you undo something this important after the race is over?
Roger Penske still concerned. Road Handler presents the Michigan 500. We'll be back with more racing after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back live at Michigan International Speedway, still under the caution. You look down from the Goodyear Blimp Enterprise based out of Pompano Beach, Florida. Drew Marshall is the captain at the controls. Goodyear continues 54 years of consecutive coverage of auto racing in the United States. It has given us some revealing shots of the Phil Kruger, John Jones accidents, and now we take a look down. Well, that's where they're working with Phil Kruger right now, the Horton safety team. Highly equipped vehicles ready to handle just this kind of situation. We continue to be concerned about the condition of Phil Kruger. We'll try and update it just as soon as we can. With 215 laps complete, let's look down through the entire field. Controversy with first and second place. Mario Andretti is well behind. Al Unser Jr., Teo Fabi, all well off the lead of this race. Derek Daly, Lyndike, Creighton, Johnny Rutherford, former winner here. Al Unser back at 10th place, 10 laps behind. Bobby Rahal, Jeff Wood, Guido Dacco, and Emerson Fittipaldi. Those are the cars running. John Jones just out as a result of that accident with Phil Kruger. Scott Pruitt, A.J. Foyt, Bernard Jourdain, Raul Boisel, all out of the run here. Gordon Johncock, Roberto Guerrero, Danny Sullivan, John Andretti, Kevin Kogan. And the final four of the 29 that started, Carter, Lewis, Chassis, and Vogler. Let's go down to Checker Route.
Let's update you on the protest here. You can see the work is continuing. Chuck Sprague took it to the scoring stand, and the scoring stand says it has to go to Bill Camphausen or to Kirk Russell. It is now being handed. You can see the money being handed to to Billy Camphausen. Roger Penske involved. It's a $100 filing fee that's necessary to protest the event. They've acknowledged it, but so far Sprague still has it in his hand and no money is exchanged. But I think it's pretty much a moot point. They know that the protest has been filed. Now, one of the things that we want to update you as well is whether Rick Mears will pit or not, and can he go the distance. Through the use of computers, here's what they've decided here on Team Penske's pit. They actually are finding that they're getting 2 miles to the gallon under green flag conditions and a whopping 8 miles to the gallon under caution. This extensive caution period has allowed them to possibly make a gamble and try and go right to the checkered flag without making another pit stop. Let's go back up to you.
Well, Mario Andretti decided not to take the chance as the tactics being played in the Newman-Haas organization as well. As Mario came in and topped the tank off, there's little or no question that he should be able to go to the end of the race now. No question whatsoever. The question will remain with Rick Mears and Michael Andretti.
That was a good gamble for Mario to come on in because he had nothing to gain. He's 2 laps behind Rick and Michael. So if he comes in and pits now, he knows he's going to make it to the end. And if they have some problems, hey, he's going to be there, Paul.
217 laps are now complete. 250 laps. The scheduled distance, 500 miles.
But Mario has been continually outpaced all season by his son, Michael. It's been a frustrating year for Mario, and really events in the last few minutes have not done much to turn that around. The interesting thing, though, it hasn't depressed him. If anything, he's been proud of the way Michael has performed, and Mario, so far, I think, thinks the team is having a pretty good season.
Well, 2 weeks from today on ABC Sports, that final, the 4th round of the International Race of Champions. Who will come away as the champion for 1989? We saw yesterday a terrific run. Terry Labonte picking up the points lead. Will he be able to maintain that lead? He's an expert on road courses, and that's just exactly what Watkins Glen is. Sunday, August 20th, the final round of the International Race of Champions. Michael Andretti, the leader of the race. Will he be the winner? What will the effect of the decision made by the officials in regard to the leaders make when they come around at the final lap and the checkered flag comes out? Michael Andretti, well, of course, he comes from a great racing heritage, a great Italian-American family. Well, we asked him, Michael, what are you most proud of?
having a good, solid family foundation, I think, you know, I'm awful proud of, and, you know, it's something that I have a place to go home, and when I'm home, I'm home. You know, I'm proud of that. You know, I'm not one that's, you know, I live out of a suitcase all year and I'm all over. I don't really have a home, but I do, and I have a great family. And, I'm also happy that I've been able to stay very close with my father and keep that family part of it too. It's just, that's what I'm proud of.
Michael Andretti, will he be in just a few laps the first driver in the history of the Michigan 500 to repeat? He won here 2 years ago. That little piece of tape on the top of his helmet that helps keep the helmet upright and aerodynamically sound keeps him from being buffeted around in the car. It seems to be giving him a little bit of luck as well. Certainly some luck when they caught that blend line in the last set of pit stops.
It's really a case of the hunted and the hunter, and the hunter is driving the yellow car right now.
Well, Bobby Unser, if you were sitting in Michael Andretti's position or in Rick Mears, you knew that you didn't stop for fuel. Would it be a concern to you, and what would be your plan when you came back to the green?
Well, their game plan is just flat out all the way. They don't have any choice. This is going to be the real big shoot-off, or the shootout that we've been looking for all day. It's going to be just raw speed all the way to the checkered flag. If they do run out of fuel for some reason, that's the way the chips are going to fly. But I don't think either one of them are going to run out. I think it's going to be one heck of a fast race.
All right, Rick Mears says the trick to a restart is pacing yourself in the third turn. That's where they are now. As they begin to pick up the pace, Rick hopes to have the momentum to get by Michael. As they come toward the green flag is out. With just over 60 miles to go, we are now racing. Rick Mears moves down to the inside, gets past Michael Andretti, and Rick Mears picks up the lead. Michael drops in behind, but Michael moves down to the inside to try and challenge Mears as they continue to fight. Coming off of the second turn now. Rick Mears with Michael Andretti tucked in right behind on the backstretch. Michael picks up the advantage of the draft. On board with Michael as Michael Andretti moves past. About 58 miles to go now in the 500-mile run at Michigan as Michael Andretti is back in front.
Very often in the latter part of the Michigan 500, we see racing just like this. Now again, we've got a Lola against a Penske and two fast cars. They're really hot on it.
So Rick Mears chasing Michael Andretti now. For a moment, he was passed and out in front.
Rick just absolutely foresaw the start, beat Michael on the start, but boy, it woke Michael up and he come back strong.
Rick Mears, an expert at pacing back to the green flag, knows how to get past, and he certainly got by there. Let's go to the pits.
Well, the question is, does Michael Andretti have enough fuel to make it to the finish? One of the crew members just ran by and said, come on, guys, stay up. There's still a long way left. They don't know if they have enough fuel to finish this race, but I think they're going to go for it, Paul.
Well, the officials have definitely had an impact. Chris Mears continues to time her husband, now in second place behind Michael. The fuel may yet be a factor. It really could be a sprint to the finish. Mario Andretti, what may prove to be a wise move, came in and topped off the tank on his car. Right now, it's Michael Andretti, Rick Mears. They are on the same lap. Teo Bobby runs in third, then Al Unser Jr. And with his stop, Mario dropped back to fifth.
There's a real good chance that Rick is saving this a little bit last. Fuel may be a little bit more of a problem here than everybody's knowing right now. And it could have been that Rick popped that higher gear, shifted a little bit to go into the cruise mode to save a little fuel and save a little speed maybe for the last 5 laps, Paul.
Well, Roger Penske is on his feet as he watches this race, and I'm going to tell you something else. Everybody in the main grandstand all along the front stretch, they're on their feet as they watch these, the closing laps of the Michigan 500. Michael Andretti flashes across the line. Rick Mears continues his pursuit just behind. Roger Penske holds his breath as they go past. The leader, Michael Andretti, threatens to ride with him and won. Above 12,000 RPM. Roger Penske watches.
You can see by watching Michael's in-car cam how well his car's handling. He has very little steering wheel movement. See his hands, hardly any movement to them, just a little bit of vibration. He's really, really handling good right now.
Michael Andretti completes 226 laps of the 250 lap scheduled distance of the Michigan 500. He's out in front. We'll be back. Back at the Michigan 500 with 20 laps to go now. 40 miles left in the distance to be run. A long, hard day once again. The Michigan 500 continues to be a remarkable event. Right now it is this Pennzoil car of Rick Mears as he chases Michael Andretti. Will Michael be the first two-time winner of the Michigan 500, or will Rick Mears score his first victory? These laps are unraveling at blistering speed. They've been running right up at 220 miles an hour as Rick Mears makes the try once again. He's down inside and alongside Michael. Pushes his way past in the second turn. Solidifies the lead coming off of 2.
That was a 217 mile an hour lap, Paul, which means we both know they can run faster. That means they're both trying to save a little bit of fuel. So the race is not over by a long ways yet.
With Bobby Unser, these cars are getting very light as well as they burn their fuel load down. The weight of the car changes over 280 pounds as it goes from full tank down to empty.
Certainly does, Paul, and they get faster as they get empty, so we know they can run a little bit faster than that. And it might be Rick just shifting down into his go gear now from his cruise gear.
Rick Mears' wife, Chris Mears, on the two-way radio, talks to her husband as they come to the backstretch again. Michael Andretti is in pursuit. They chase one another around this track. Let's get an update now, though, on the condition of Phil Kruger. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, we checked at the Horton Medical Center with the officials of CART, and here's what they have told us on Phil Kruger. He is being airlifted from here to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and the McCauley Medical Center. When quizzed as to whether Phil Kruger was conscious or unconscious, they refused to answer those questions and said all they could tell us at this time is that he is being transferred to Ann Arbor, Michigan, to the McCauley Medical Center, Paul.
Not necessarily the report that we had hoped for on Phil Kruger. I really wish it could be more detailed than that. That's an excellent medical center. It's only about 15 minutes away by air here. They are bypassing a local hospital in Texas to go direct to that medical center service. We'll continue to strive to get answers from CART so that we can tell you the situation with regard to Phil Kruger. Now the situation. Rick Mears is out in front of Michael Andretti. These are the only two cars running together on the course right now. Third place is Cale Bobby. He is 3 laps or 6 miles behind this battle for the lead here in the Newman Haas pit. They continue to worry and work their car around the track. Both crews have to concern themselves with fuel. They are both stretching their fuel tanks to the limit, though they picked up a tremendous advantage with the long caution period for the Phil Kruger-John Jones accident.
And just remember, Paul, they're both on the same lap. They're both in similar situations where they're fuel. So they just really have nothing to do but gamble for it and go for it. And remember, they have 3 laps, or at least 2 laps on the next car behind them. So the worst they could do is still finish where they are.
Well, so far, Rick Mears has proven that he is very capable. He has a lap in the record book at 222.7 miles an hour. The only man that has been faster is Emerson Fittipaldi, who has been above 223. But Fittipaldi is not in this fight. It is strictly between Michael and Rick Mears.
Ed Nathan of Michael Andretti's team. Chris Bowles.
26 miles to go. to go. Nathan continues to run. Is this the same situation that we saw at the conclusion of the Indianapolis 500? There it was Emerson Fittipaldi chasing Al Unser Jr. Down to 2 laps to go before they touched. Michael Andretti picks up the lead. Rick Mears, perhaps what Chris was reacting to was something that Rick said even before the car slowed. As Rick Mears is slowing on the course, the question is fuel. Rick Mears, that bright yellow car, slowing as Michael Andretti comes across the straight and picks up the lead officially.
And keep another thing in mind. Michael still may have a problem himself. We assume that Rick has a fuel problem, just ran out of fuel. We're not too sure that Michael's going to make it either. Remember, Mario came in a little bit earlier, decided to take on fuel just for a gamble such as this.
Rick Mears rolls in. Jack is there.
Well, Rick Mears has pulled the car. It is still running. They're not filling it with fuel. They're in the back of the car where it looks as if it could be maybe a CV joint, but the yellow flag has been displayed, which is a break for them. They are still looking over the back of the car, trying to determine what the problem is. Obviously, yes. It looks like it must be a constant velocity joint. He has turned it off.
So the engine goes off on Rick Mears' car as the yellow flag comes out. Michael Andretti is the leader of the race, and no indication as to why the yellow may have been turned on. The equipment rolls on the course, and in the Newman Haas pits, now what will be the decision? Will they bring Michael in and top him off on fuel and not take a chance? He passes the pit lane there with 16 miles to go. What would you do, Bobby?
Well, remember, he'll double or possibly triple his mileage under a yellow flag. So this totally changes it, and the guys in there will really be thinking quick. My guess is they'll probably leave him out if they think it's going to be long yellow.
Let's go to the pits and Brian Hammond.
Well, Michael Andretti is not going to pit under this yellow flag. You can conserve fuel, obviously, under a yellow, but they're not going to come in. They're going to stay on the racetrack and go for the finish. Paul?
Michael Andretti on the backstretch. Does he now have this race wrapped up? Rick Mears with something more than fuel and something that apparently he was able to report as he went past on his two-way radio back to his pit. And Phil Kruger being loaded into the ambulance helicopter here just outside the medical facility at Michigan International with a short flight over to Ann Arbor, the medical center there. And we will continue to strive to get information on Phil Kruger's condition. As yet, it has not been passed to us by the medical officials here or by CART. Report on the yellow is a result of an engine that let go on Scott Brayton's machine. And they wanted to make sure that the course was perfectly safe to run on, no oil laid down. And they should be able to go back to green flag racing very quickly.
The kind of thing that just happened to Rick Mears is what has been happening to Michael Andretti so far this year. And as we have a look right here, you will see that sudden movement by Rick Mears' car, which signals the braking of that CV joint. He did a beautiful job to keep the car under control, because what in effect happens when a CV joint breaks is that suddenly all of your power is being transmitted to only one of the rear wheels. Watch it, there it is. He did a beautiful job keeping the car under control. You see how close he got to the outside of the racing line.
More than beautiful, I'd say incredible. At that kind of speed, when that CV joint lets go, it's lucky the whole corner of the car wasn't cut
Well, it
loose.
probably became just a big vibration. He moved right out of the way is what he did, Paul.
All right, let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, originally they thought it was a CV joint, and then when they tried to restart the car, they decided that actually what had occurred is that it was a suspension problem because the drive is still back to both rear wheels. So Rick Mears is back out on the racetrack, but catching up with Dr. David Crippen, who is with the CART Horton PPG IndyCar safety team. Can you give us an update report on Phil Kruger, Dr. Crippen?
Well, he was involved in a substantial injury. He was unconscious at the scene, and so we stabilized his airway, brought him back to the Horton Center, where we evaluated him, And he has chest injuries. We placed a chest tube to evacuate some blood. We intubated him to protect his airway, but as of about 5 minutes ago, he was moving appropriately to painful stimuli and moving all his extremities.
Was he conscious?
He was coming around slowly, but he was not conscious at the time. So I think that all things considered, it could be worse. And but we'd call his condition critical, but I don't see anything right off the top that looks fatal. So I think that he's got a good chance of coming around.
Well, that's good news. We've gone back to Green Flag Racing, and Phil Kruger is on his way to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Gentlemen.
Well, our prayers will certainly ride with one of the finest young men in the sport, Phil Kruger, as he is now on board the helicopter on his way over to Ann Arbor. On board with Al Unser Jr., the third-place car at this moment. And Michael Andretti is the leader of the race. Mario Andretti is just behind Little Al, running in fourth place. So this is a fight for third right here. There's Teo Fabi. Fabi is the second-place car. And Little Al showing some spray at the back of his car. Is this another turbocharger engine?
You wonder why Michigan produces this kind of race year in and year out. You can see two-thirds of the way through the season. You wonder, do the cars, do the mechanics somehow tire out? It's an amazing fact of history that this race produces this rash of breakdowns year in and year out.
It might just be how tough this particular track for 500 miles is on cars.
It is. We said earlier, it's cool today and it's been good to them, but normally it's hot, Dave. It really is hard on the cars, the tires, the equipment, the drivers. This is just a tough race, so when a guy wins this one, he really has to be a proud person.
Michael Andretti out in front of this race. Teo Fabi sits back in second place. And then the fight for third between Little Al and Mario, for the most part broken off now, as Little Al displayed vapor at the back of the car. 6 miles to go. There they are. Mario is just in front of Little Al now. Little Al is not giving up yet.
Well, remember, he has some sort of a problem. He's definitely spraying something out the back of the car. He can't last very long at that. Now, it could be he's slowing down a little bit because he realizes the problem, Paul.
But this is the battle for third place, so it is significant. Two cars that have had their troubles during the day, but have wound up locked in a battle with just a few laps to go.
Back with the leader, Michael Andretti. He is on the backstretch now, heading for turn number 3, well out in front of the second-place car. The Porsche-powered march of Teo Fabi. There is Fabi as he maneuvers around this course. Mario Andretti trying to close down on Fabi. The white flag comes out for Michael Andretti. Will he be the first repeat winner of the Michigan 500? Al Unser Jr. falls a little further behind as Michael Andretti comes off of the second turn. Michael Andretti working his last lap. Mario Andretti trying to catch up to Teo Fabi. On the final lap now for Michael Andretti. The last pass down the backstretch. Heads into turn 3. That bright white Haviland machine working its way around this track off of the fourth turn. There is Michael as he screams toward the line. The twin checkered flags are out, and Michael Andretti has scored a repeat win, the first driver ever to do so in the Michigan 500. We watch the fight for second place. It's on the backstretch. Teo Fabi is in second. That is Mario Andretti, and Andretti is indeed closing. This is the fight for second as they come for the checkered flag. Andretti closes up behind Teo Fabi. Can Teo hold him off? They have slower traffic just in front. Slower traffic just in front, but no. Teo Fabi holds him off. And Mario Andretti will finish in third. Teo Fabi comes across the line in second. So Michael Andretti has won the Michigan 500. He slows down now on his victory lap. His race is complete, and Michael is the winner. We'll be back in just a moment. Well, there's Michael Andretti just moments ago as he acknowledged the fact that he is the winner of the Michigan 500. Now he is in the winner's circle. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Michael Andretti, congratulations. That was really a close one there. You had your work cut out for you.
What a day, I'll tell you. It was just, you know, a lot of errors in the beginning on my part. And, you know, the guys hung out in there and gave me great pit stops. And the car ran fantastic all day. Would have been a good fight with Rick if he wouldn't have had his problems, though.
Now, a spin by you in the pits. What went through your mind when that happened?
Well, I thought I was going to hit Raul because I saw his guy waving them, in, and I thought, oh no, repeat of Cleveland. So I tried to break the tires loose to get out quicker, and I just lost it. And it was a dumb mistake, but it's all right.
It's all right for sure because he's in victory lane. He's won the Michigan 500 today, Paul Page.
And back-to-back wins for Michael Andretti. So now he is on a roll. Unofficial for the moment, but Michael Andretti is indeed the winner, followed by Bobby, Mario Andretti, Al Unser Jr., Derek Daly with a good run, comes home in 5th place. Then Arie Luyendyk, Rick Mears, Al Unser, Bobby Rahal, and Johnny Rutherford comes home in 10th. Emerson Fittipaldi will keep the points lead. Rick Mears had a great opportunity to move in and take it away from Emerson Fittipaldi, or at least challenge him. Aerial facilities provided by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. The car sits silent now after a 500-mile run at Michigan after it carried Michael